YouTube, what's up? We are back for the
What's up, everybody?
the third gas mask and hand grenades in a week. I'm trying to roll these out fast and furious. I'm not gonna say it's the last one because every time I say it's the last one, then everybody goes, "Yeah, but you said that was the last one." um, but my health is really failing, so we'll see how things are this week. I had a couple more that I planned on Yob and Agalok with Jimmy and maybe, but it's just a matter of me popping this stuff on you guys and going, hey, I got to do this in 2 or 3 days. And you guys all have jobs and kids and wives and lives. And, you can't just lay around and listen to music all day like I can if I want to. So we'll see what happens there. But I would say it's a pretty good chance this might be it. But what we wanted to do, because going way back to the very first issue of Gas Masks and Hand Grenades, which Jimmy and Serge were with me for, we did the Porcupine Tree catalog. And that was a really killer deep dive that was lasted about 5 hours. And well, actually, it was 7 hours if you count in the bullshitting afterwards. But we had talked after we were done there about doing the Steve Wilson catalog, which is a daunting task if you get beyond his solo albums. That's a pretty doable thing. But as if you're a fan of Steven Wilson, you might know he's got numerous different projects he's got his hands in. He has his first band, which was called No Man, which frankly, man, I really would like to do a No Man deep dive because I fucking love the No Man material. But we'll see. He's got Bass Community, he's got Incredible Expanding Mindfuck, he's got Blackfield, he's got Continuum, he's got Corrosions, or what's it called, Storm Corrosion. Am I missing anything? I'm sure I'm missing something.
I mean,
Um,
those are all the big ones.
those are the
Altamont, I
big
guess,
ones.
if you
Yeah.
really want to count all of them. But
And then on top of that, as if that wasn't enough, he's produced albums by many different bands. He's co-produced, Opeth being the big one, Patos, Anathema. He's mixed albums for some of the bigger artists in that scene and the prog scene.
and then you
And
see
on top of
now
that,
he did a Guns N' Roses mix, which is
he
fun.
did that Guns N' Roses remix for their box set for the one. I think it's for Appetite, or is it Use Your Illusion? I can't remember which one. I
You
forget.
use your illusion.
Okay, he did a Kiss remix for the 40th anniversary of Destroyer, I believe. He's also done fucking tons of remixes for King Crimson, for Jethro Tull, Gentle Giant. I mean, dude, I don't know when this guy fucking sleeps. Like, how and when? And then he's out on tour, except for the last 2 years. So, Pedro's asking, have we talked about the new Porcupine Tree? I think we have in some of our other streams, like
Yeah, I
our
guess
bullshit streams.
not like officially or specifically, but we
Yeah,
discussed it. Yeah.
I'm lukewarm on it. Doesn't do a whole lot for me. I don't. A lot of people talked about it being this fucking amazing album. Jimmy went to see it, said it really helped kind of bring the album alive for him. And I know Serge, you saw him too, which I was supposed to be at, but I just was too sick to go to. But um,
And it's definitely
I,
good to see live, because it definitely does,
I
flesh it
mean,
out a little bit.
I don't hate it. I don't dislike it. It just doesn't move the needle much for me. When I heard the news, it was something I was kind of half expecting because I had heard some little tidbits of information through the grapevine through people I know that know. I kind of expected it, so it wasn't like, oh my god, they're back. And I heard Harridan and I liked it, but I didn't love it. And the New Day was okay, and I don't know. I'm not blown away by it. You guys, real quick before we jump into this.
I like it a lot. I mean, I kind of really liked it from the get go. I mean, is it Fear of a Blank Planet? No, but for me, and getting into the Steven Wilson, solo stuff tonight. I mean, for me, I prefer the Porcupine Tree stuff to his solo stuff. I love the solo stuff as well, but I had always hoped that they would get back together. So for me, that was a big deal. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a masterpiece like some of the masterpieces they've done, but I think it's good music. I think I like that it's got, it's kind of brought the Porcupine Tree sound back with, the kind of heavier sound. I think the production is just pristine, flawless. It's just some of it feels like it's kind of like leftover material. Some of it feels a little fresher. I think the bonus tracks are really, really good.
Yeah, they are. Again,
But yeah, it's for, if this is actually going to be a continuation, then I welcomed it, and it's a good record. I mean, and seeing them play those songs live kind of opened it up even more for me because it just sounded so fantastic live. Just the drumming is just Gavin's like one of my favorite drummers, and the drumming is just as you would expect from Gavin.
It was
Harrison.
good to see or hear all of them kind of clearly contribute on this album, which is
nice. I'm a little bummed that Colin and Wesley aren't a part of it, but I mean, another thing I sort of, I don't want to say like I forgot, but like because I'd seen Porcupine Tree twice back in the day, but this last time seeing them just really reinforced to me just how important Richard Barbieri is to the sound of that band.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, he really shined, I thought, live in terms of his contributions, and maybe it had something to do with the fact that it wasn't like the glorious 5-piece that you remember them. They had a couple hired guns, on bass and guitar. Just felt like there was a real big focus on Barbieri and the three piece of the core of the band. But still don't really understand why Colin is not in there. But yeah.
Well, Serge, you can speak to the Colin thing. Go ahead. And the album.
What was that? Oh, you just
I said you can speak to the Colin thing because you talk. You and I both know a little bit more about that based upon our information from, directly from one of the sources, and also speak to the album. I'm gonna mute.
I mean, I had that interview with Richard himself, right? So we brought it up because people wanted to know, right? But it just sounded like they kind of grew, separate ways. Colin has a bunch of projects, RK and so on that he's got going on, and I don't know. It seemed like, Stephen, Gavin, and Richard kind of kept up at least somewhat over the years, and Colin maybe didn't. So, as far as West goes, I guess they chose, to go in a different direction there, but.
Well, real quick, my buddy Doug popped in, and we're going to mention Doug in a little bit, other than now, because he graciously gave me a really nice gift a couple years ago that we'll get into. Doug, give me a minute on that, okay? I just got a text from him. Give me a minute, and I'll address that when one of the guys is talking about one of the albums. I can't do it right this second. The thing on John Wesley is a little touchy. It's not something we can really talk about openly. The band, particularly Richard, is aware that some of the fans weren't particularly happy about that because Wes was kind of the the greeter, at Walmart or whatever when you walk in the door. Hi, welcome to Walmart.
Also, Wes made a point about it as opposed to Colin, who didn't really address it, right?
Well, here's my thoughts on Colin. According to what I heard and what I understand is that Colin did not really keep in close contact with the guys unless it was a major business matter, and then
that's what I said. Yeah,
streaming platform.
They just weren't really keeping in touch. Yeah.
But he also did not express an interest to come in and work on the tracks with the guys, and he knew they were allegedly. So in that case, maybe Colin made his own choice not to be involved. It sounds very much like that could have been part of it.
Yeah,
whether that's true or not, I don't know.
It feels like it was mutual. Yeah.
Right.
As opposed to Wes, where I think Wes
it wasn't mutual.
Wanted to continue with it.
Exactly. And I reached out to Colin privately, and he did not respond to me. And he knew me pretty well back in the day, so I think he just wanted to let sleeping dogs lie and be like, I don't want to get into it. So I respect that. As far as,
and by the way, his the RK project just came out of a new album, I think a week ago, so it's Scream Easy.
Yeah, I listened to it. I'm not crazy about the vocalist. I need to probably put a little more time into it. The vocalist kind of didn't do it for me, but I love Colin's work, especially some of his more ethereal stuff with Theo Travis and some of the, Dave, what's his name? Dave Gregory, or not Dave Gregory. Cypher guy that's in Cypher that he did work with and stuff. So I mean, again, with the album, allegedly there might be some Fear of a Blank Planet leftovers there, some new material they worked on, and
I think
as
it's a mix of different things. You know,
right
I
as
think
Serge said, they Colin is not Colin. Gavin is the musical director, and Gavin made the call to bring in Randy McStein and Nate Navarro as hired hands. And the what I heard was that essentially they wanted a multi instrumentalist at guitar that could play keyboards and sang. And I don't know. You guys saw him. Did McStein ever get on the keyboards? Because I didn't.
no,
I didn't think he did.
it was guitar, and he basically did Wes's role: guitar,
Exactly.
high
So-
vocals. You know,
But
kinda like that, so
my buddy Doug is asking whether he can join. Do you guys have a problem with that?
I don't care.
Nope.
You know
But
Doug, sir.
there's
You
no
met
way.
him. And Doug has a deep knowledge of and has tons of shit. He's not going to have a lot of thoughts on each album other than just a word or two. I'll speak to him once we get started on the albums, and I'll talk to him privately when I can go dark for a minute. Doug's been there with a lot of shows with me, and he's got a fuck ton of stuff. If you guys think we all have crazy amounts of Porcupine Tree, and Doug actually has original copies of Tarkin's Seaweed Farm and the tapes, the cassette tapes.
Oh wow.
Doug has done very well in his life. I'm not going to get into that, but he's done very well in his life, so he was able to do that and buy stuff like that. And we're not going to go into the PT stuff, though, Doug. I don't have time for that. We'll be here all night, but I'll contact you privately in a minute. Serge, did you have a real quick take on the album for you overall?
Yeah, I think overall I liked it definitely better than the Incident. I wasn't sure, like, is there a track that like really kind of grabs me? And I think after seeing them live, that track was Chimera's Rack for me.
Yeah.
I think live it kind of brought it together. So
Great song.
Which song?
Chimera's Rack.
Oh, okay. The one they stole the riff from Tom Sawyer from?
Listen, everybody steals from everybody. I have no idea.
Oh, but it's a direct riff though. Yeah, I mean, just to tie up on that so we can get started here, Pedro. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's as Jimmy said, I think the bonus tracks are better than some of the album tracks. In fact, all three of them are better than a couple of the album tracks. And
honestly, I don't even treat them as bonus tracks because
it's just one album. Yeah.
I always get the deluxe version, right, or whatever. So it's just album tracks for me. So.
Well, I messed up there because when I listened to the album first on Spotify, I thought those were part of the record. Like I just didn't pay attention.
Well,
so
that's the other thing. Yeah, you hear it on Spotify. You don't like it doesn't.
Did you reorder the deluxe, Jimmy? Or
well, I went to the record store and picked up the vinyl, and then got home and listened to it, and I was like, hey, this is missing some stuff. And then I looked at it, I was like, oh fuck, those were bonus tracks because I really wanted. I thought again those were the best songs, so I ended up getting I did get a deluxe CD version of it, and this isn't the vinyl; it's the 2 CD set with the.
Do me a favor, show that off while I bounce out for a minute to send Doug the. You guys show your stuff, okay?
Yeah, no worries. Yeah,
I
do you have the
grabbed this
vinyl?
one.
Is that the vinyl?
Yeah.
Yeah, I spaced on it because I just didn't realize that those were bonus tracks. So I bought the standard vinyl. By the time I went back to the record store, all the deluxe vinyl was sold out, and now they have the CD sets. So I just went with this, but still, this wasn't cheap. It's probably got the same book as you got.
Yeah. So this is the.
That's the 3 vinyls. Did yours come with the book, this big book?
No, I don't think so. That was just.
Oh, okay. Maybe this was just.
This is just a vinyl, yeah.
This must have just been exclusive to the CD deluxe version, but yeah, it's got a Blu-ray, and I would have preferred to have the vinyl, the free vinyl, but whatever. I mean, I'm just kind of glad to have those tracks, even though I ended up spending nearly $100 on the new Porcupine Tree record. But,
Yeah, it was like, and they had the pre-order so early, it was like months ahead. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Merchandising.
I guess it's kind of smart. I mean, I kind of hate Steven for doing that, like, because he has a tendency to take some of the better tracks and make them bonus tracks. But
well, we're going to talk about that, especially with, and that's why I did all the bonus track stuff with all the expanded editions, which I own two of the 5. I own expanded editions with. One I bought early on, right away when the first one came out. The second one, my friend Doug, who might join us in a bit here, sent me one because his was damaged. It's got a little ding in the front, and they sent him a new one. And we'll get around to that. So okay, so let's jump back, and we're gonna get away from Porcupine Tree. We talked about all the stuff Steve's involved in, but let's talk about his solo career. In 2008, there was some information went up on his, at that time, fairly rudimentary website that he was going to release a solo album. And, this was, I would say Serge and I were still pretty much in our fanboy stages, or rather, I guess I was in a fanboy stage.
Oh, no. I was definitely in the, like, buy every single thing that...
Yeah, like everything he came out with, we would buy. And, by the way, we're only going to talk about the albums proper that came out with the, and then we're going to briefly touch on the EPs. But I don't know. I think all of us have 4.5, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what other EPs do you guys have? Any? I forgot. I asked, but I forget what you said.
I don't, except for, I guess, I don't know if you count the remixes as some EPs.
So you don't have like Drive Home, the B-sides collect, the what's it called? Transients is another one. It's like a comp. Yeah. They include that as an album on Rate Your Music, and it's not really. There's a couple of remixes and new tracks.
There's a lot of.
Yeah, we're not gonna get into that shit.
I do have a couple of live albums, but yeah.
Yeah, you can show those, but we're not gonna discuss them deeply. I think the only one we're gonna talk a lot about is 4.5 because it has a lot of.
Well, I think that's the only real proper EP, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was like a stopgap.
A bunch of originals with no.
I am going to talk at length. Well, probably I'm the only one, unless you guys spent the time doing it. But I am going to talk somewhat at length about the. Hey, look at this. Hold on. Shit, get out of here. All right, what the fuck here? Hold on. Oh my! It's alive! Hey. What's up, dude?
Hey, Doug.
How's it going?
All right. This is Doug Kostelnik, Jimmy, Future Ruins that you see there, Doug. He's out in Colorado. Good buddy of mine we met last year online here. And Serge. I think you've met Serge, right? Yeah, you were with Serge down in Philly.
Yeah, we hung out for one day.
That Anathema show, or Blackfield show.
Right.
So the great part about tonight is Doug's on psychotropic drugs right now because he just had a hip replacement, so he's going to be fun.
Nice,
or not psychotropic drugs. What am I saying? Opiates, rather. I'm sorry.
Yes, we're coming off of opioids.
How you feeling? Not so great?
Nah.
All right, well, here's how it works, Doug. For my deep dives, and I think you've watched one or two, you peeked in on some of them. Basically, we start in around Robin style. We talk about the albums. I generally allow my guests to show them because my stuff is, a lot of it's still in boxes and from moving, and I don't get it out. It wasn't any point in getting it out. And with how I'm feeling, I don't bother. So I'll probably have you guys show what you got to show while I give some, production data, when, where, how, what year it came out, what date. And then I may have some anecdotes about it. Like the first one, obviously there's a lot to talk about, and maybe who played on the album. And then we'll get into tearing it down. Now, I tend to go track by track. I'll try not to bore you guys. I tend to go as quick as I can. But you guys can do it whatever way you want. Just give your thoughts on the album, and that's how we'll kind of go with it. So, and I do tend to rank them, but in this one, I didn't really rank it because I'll just say, yeah, this is probably my fave or my second fave or whatever. You can
There's
do
not like that menu where you really need like a,
Right.
Are we gonna do cover versions first, because chronologically, or?
No, we'll do those last. Let's hit them
Okay.
last. You're right though. Chronologically, they would be the first, but let's do that last.
All right.
Well, I know you'll get a kick out of this because I've got this and I've got this.
I got both of them.
Of course
You got the vinyl and the CD, Blu-ray.
I got the vinyl and the CD.
All right. What you must understand about Doug, which I said before you got on, and he may or may not have heard it, is that he has the means and he also has the insanity to do so. About the only other guy I know that's on your level is my buddy Dave Schroeder, who buys everything and anything, and then that guy has like 15 versions of Nothing Face from Voivod in every different color there is. It's like, dude, it's the same fucking music. Why do you own like 15 albums of the same fucking thing, man? Like, what's up with that, you know? So
I was into
It's
that
a compulsion,
for a while.
man.
Like
it's a compulsion.
I've got all 5 color versions.
And if you look behind Doug, you can see his modular synth back there, ELP style, no joke.
Yeah.
And he probably has about 487 guitars somewhere in his house somewhere. So I'm not going to tell you where he lives because anyone watching this will then go and try and rob him and kill him and take his guitars. So,
yeah, we're in my music room, which is kind of a mess. So if you say grab this, it's going to take me a minute to find things.
That's fine. Whatever you pulled out, well, you know, these guys have a lot of stuff too. I have some of the limited editions, my Blu-ray, and some Insurgents remix stuff and stuff like that I'll quick show. But I generally let my guests show their stuff off. So, all right. So let's talk about what happened here. Let me solo a minute here for a second. And unfortunately, my tripod is broken, so I have to do this by hand with my phone. So in 2008, we get a microsite on or something like that with regards to Steven's solo album. It's comes out on Headphone Dust, which is his personal label, which only releases his material. And actually, I don't even know if there's still a going concern. I haven't bought there in quite a long time, so I think it is. And the limited edition of this album is released in November 2008, November 26th. A retail version comes out February 24th, 2009 on Snapper and K-Scope. It was recorded at various studios all around the world, including Mexico, United States, UK, Europe. It was produced by Steven Wilson. It came out March 7th and March 9th in Australia and United Kingdom, respectively. And that is, again, on Snapper and K-Scope. Again, August 26th, 08, there's a website with pre-order information that started to come out. There was various different, drops from there through November of song snippets, and there was an 18-minute video put out that Lasse Hoyle, which is Steven's longtime collaborator, starting with In Absentia all the way through Dead Wing, Fear of a Blank Planet, and The Incident. He did a lot, if not all or most of the artwork. There are other people in there. This album includes Steve Wilson, Gavin Harrison, Tony Levinson, Jordan Rudess of Dream Theater, Tony Levinson of King Crimson and California Guitar Trio, etc., etc. Theo Travis on flutes and saxes. Dirk Series, which these guys may know, but most people probably wouldn't. That's Vidna Omana, his partner in some of his dark ambient projects like Continuum. He played some guitar, treated guitar on it. A guy named Mike Outrem plays on it, guitar. Claudeau Simmons, I forget who she's in. Do you guys remember? She's in a famous band, but I forget who the hell. She contributes vocals on Significant Other. Claudeau Simmons, I forget. Someone can look that up. Also, Sand Snowman, I think he's Dutch. He does some solo albums, very interesting, weird, trippy, psychedelic, strange, acoustic-y, cool stuff. That's very, very cool, actually. Also, Susanna Moyo does photos along with Lassi, and a guy named Michio Yagi plays the koto on the Insurgentes track.
That's a woman.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, Japanese, traditional.
Michio Yagi, the woman, not the man. Sorry, my bad. The original issue of this, which I know Doug and I know Serge have, was a limited 3,000 copy. One of you guys want to show that?
Which
Serge?
one are you referring to?
The Insurgente's Deluxe Edition, the book.
So this giant thing?
Yep, that's it right there.
Which
It's
was,
a hard-
fairly
Yep.
cool packaging. This is started, well, not started, but like continued the whole deluxe package thing. The book is nice,
And I don't know if he's one of the first to do this. I'm sure he wasn't the very first, but he's got to be one of the ones that took it to the extreme level because
Yeah, I think it was one of the earlier instances where just the single album got like this whole
right.
kind of a box set treatment,
And actually, that's a good point to make. That the way this first came out was in the box book limited edition of 3,000. It didn't get released on a retail version until February as a standalone CD. There was also a movie that Lasse followed, a documentary shot by, the bulk of it was shot by Lasse Hoyle. DVD released in September 27th, 2010. Had a bonus single released called Vapor Trail Lullabies, which I believe then ended up on something somewhere somehow. I don't remember that. I did not write down.
There's a single somewhere.
Right. It's just a CD single, right? It's just a CDR or a CD single, like a press single. Let's see. And that was an instrumental song, if I remember correctly. Pretty sure it was. Also, it should be mentioned that it also came out at the same time it came out with the double CD and the DVD audio with 5.1 mixes on it, which was, Porcupine Tree was very early on the cutting edge of the DVD audio 5.1 thing. They put out in Absentia first like that, Dead Wing, Fear of a Blind Planet, and the Incident. And then they also went back and Steven mixed a lot of the earlier material like Lightbulb Sun, Stupid Dream. I think that was the only two he did, right? I don't think it went before that for 5.1s, right? I don't think Signify and those albums are in 5.1, correct?
I didn't get all the 5.1 versions anyway, so
I don't think they did. I think it was.
I don't think they did. I kind of wish they did Sky, but
yeah, it was only Stupid Dream. I think. I think it had something to do with the original tape.
yeah, I'm sure it's just old,
You have
the
to
older
prep the
stuff
tapes
just
for
wasn't
that, yeah.
good
So
enough, I guess.
it also had a 1,000 copies of the 10-inch vinyl, 120-page hardback book. I'm sure Doug owns one of those too because he probably has one of each, right, Doug? Don't lie.
Which one's that? I'm sorry.
Insurgentes. You have both versions, right?
I believe so.
Of course you do. I know you do. You don't have to say you believe so. I know you do.
To be honest, I kind of stopped gathering everything because it was getting a little ridiculous because
You have no room for it. You had to buy a second house.
yeah, I mean there's a price involved with everything, the space and the redundancy.
Exactly.
And I'm getting to the point I won't buy anything anymore by anybody that's a remix, remaster, special edition, deluxe, whatever. I'll buy the best one, and that's
My
it.
baby boy's all grown up. Oh my goodness.
He's become financially responsible.
Oh yeah, right. Of course.
I believe you.
Last of the quick notes, there was one single issued, Harmony Corinne. There was also a double LP version of this. It came out on March 30th, 2009 with all tracks, but the one bonus track called The 78 was not included on that vinyl. That came out in 2,000 copies on a blood red vinyl only. And there was also a single for Harmony Corinne that came out on a 7-inch. So, should also note one last thing. There he goes. He's got him. Of course he's got him. Here, show him real quick. One more time. And those are those the 7 inches?
Yeah.
Are those different color variants, or are they?
I think there's one's a large hole, one's a small hole. And I forget why I have the third one.
That was tone float, right? Tone float.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what they did, and I don't understand this. I don't know what the fuck the deal was on this, but they had the small hole like so it could go on, and it's 45, but they had the small hole so it could go on the little spindle, but then they also had the thing that you could put the little plastic dealie in the middle, like a real 45. I mean, anything to make this merchandise seem nostalgic and cool. Steve would do it, and the guy over at Tone Float, I forget his name. Do you remember his name?
No,
Tone Float dude? Yeah, I don't remember his name. I used to know it. I don't remember it now. Cool. I think they're still around, right? Cool Dutch label.
Yeah, they're still there.
Yeah. And again, those were 2,000 copies. Last thing to mention, remix compilation remixes. On January 31st, 09, K-Scope put a site up where it actually solicited remixes of tracks off the album. And then Steven picked the remix. Do you guys remember that? There's the Blood Rattle, yeah.
yeah.
Do you guys remember that website that popped up?
I tried to get Winston to do one.
Yeah, like Steven, they put the stems of the recordings up on the website, and then you could download them and remix the tracks.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many. I think they got something like 500 remix submissions.
I'm sure we got quite a bit. Yeah.
And Steven ended up picking all the ones that went on the CD. And of course, there had to be a vinyl with different remixes on the vinyl, right? There you go, black. Okay. I'm gonna steal your thunder a little bit, though. Oh, black, white, and red. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm gonna steal your thunder. Here's the remix of Insurgente's album, and you will note, maybe you can see this, but look at that. Not even open, never played. I think last time I saw that was worth about $75. So we'll get into those tracks in a minute. And the last thing to say is that there was a CD that I think was unlimited and a 12-inch vinyl, which was limited to 1,000 copies. So, and I know Doug has both of those. I'm positive of it. And we're going to let Serge show. You have the remix CD? Serge?
Yeah, I saw the CD.
There you go. Yeah, and we're going to talk about the tracks on there in a minute, although that's one I think I forgot to listen to. Fuck. I have some notes on it, though.
All
right,
not
so
like a DVD type package. I don't know why. But.
yeah, it has the DVD like CD box instead of the regular squared off $2. But all right, so that's all the notes I have on this. Let's step into talking about the album. I'll go last. How about we go with Serge first, and I'll mix that up a little bit. Serge, talk about Insurgentes.
So one thing I think it's kind of good to put in context is just in terms of chronology, this was still before PT existed. And this was between Fear of a Black Planet and the incident. So I think musically you can sort of tell that too. So, and again, as probably you guys, or some of you anyway, I haven't listened to this stuff in a long time, so it's kind of good to go back and re-listen to all of this. And it was a pleasant surprise, I think, how well this this stood up, and it opens up really strong to me for harmony, Corin, I don't know how to pronounce it. Really grabs your attention. I think that was one of my favorite tracks on there. Another one of my favorites was, again, Spanish, so forgive my pronunciation. Venena para las hadas. I really love the Spaceys part. It kind of reminds me a bit of the way Sky Moose felt. So, a couple of pretty, fairly radio-friendly tracks, like Significant Other, Only Child. Now, one of the things I noticed with this album is, and I remember, I think, didn't we go to a listening session for this?
You and I got invited to Avatar Studios in New York to actually sit. David Frick was sitting right next to us. Remember that from Rolling Stone? The one dude. You probably don't remember that. I knew who he was. Steven came out, talked a little bit, and then they did a whole listening session on the album, and then Jordan Rudess was there. Remember we walked back.
I remember Jordan, which is like metronome. But we're sitting in this room, and obviously really, really good audio surround. So, and one of the trends he used on multiple tracks here, Abandoner, Salvaging, and what was the other one? Get All You Deserve. They all kind of ended as just like wall of noise, you know, it just built up to this creepy wall of noise. I don't know. I guess that was something Steve was into at the time. I think it showed up a little bit on Incident as well. I really liked the last track of Insurgentes. That that koto, the Japanese instrument, totally made it for me. And I think overall, like I tried to do like a 1 to 5 kind of rating for the songs. I pretty much had them all rated higher than 3, except for No Twilight. That was a 3 for me, but like basically no bad songs. It was an enjoyable listen for me.
Serge, do me a favor. Can you bounce your volume just a tiny bit?
Up or down?
Up.
Up?
Yeah, are you guys hearing him okay? Because I'm not.
Yeah, I hear him okay.
Maybe I'm old. Can't hear him.
Yeah, I mean, I
Just
might
a
be playing
tad.
from it, so hopefully.
And what did you say about No Twilight?
That was kind of like my least or lowest ranked.
Boo!
I mean, it wasn't bad. It was just not one I got into as much. I did like the pretty section in the second half, but I don't know. Maybe you probably like the guitar stuff more than I do.
Of course, you know that. Production, typical amazing production by Steve. You know, he's a master in the studio, the mixes.
Yeah,
And the one thing to note about this album is that he kind of mastered it. You know, the trend back around that time was to brick wall everything, make everything super loud. He went the other way. He made it so that you got to use your volume button or your volume knob to crank it, and it just the more you crank it, the better it sounds. And you don't have all that breakup. You don't have all that. You know, a good example of brick walling was the original Vapor Trails by Rush. It just sounds like shit. It was so bad that they actually had it remixed later on, and the remix is way better than the original mix. And
of course, when you do turn it up and he hits you with that wall of noise at the end of those tracks.
oh yeah, Jimmy, what you got on this? Are you ready, or are you good?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What you got on this one? You
So
probably
I
have
think-
do you have the standard version?
Yeah, I think this is the only
Yep.
one I don't have on vinyl actually, but I think I bought this one, you know, when it came out. This is it's kind of like the nice hard case jewel 2 CD set. I think this has, you know, the CD, and then there's a DVD, which he was kind of getting big into, which I think is kind of cool. I think every single, you know, record that I have, Wilson or Porcupine Tree, that has the DVD, I don't think I've ever played, but I know he's like really big into that, you know, 5.1 surround sound kind of
Right.
experience. So that's pretty cool. I don't really have the gear for that, so I mean, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, kind of interesting that this came out really still while Porcupine Tree was active. I don't even really remember, like when it came out. I just don't think I really liked it that much. Like I don't know if I really gave it a true chance at the time. You know, it was all about Porcupine Tree, but I don't even think we really knew that they were about to go, you know, dormant at this point. But you know, it kind of took time, and you know, kind of some, you know, just coming back to it later on, and obviously recently for this deep dive for me to really appreciate this record, which I really do. It's not one of my favorites, but I think the interesting thing about it is that, you know, you can tell that he was really getting that bug to, you know, kind of experiment outside of the bounds of Porcupine Tree, because, you know, PT at this point had kind of become an institution. They've kind of come more of a band kind of thing, and you know, I mean, there was only so much experimentation, I guess, that he could do with that band, given where they had gotten to at this point. So I think that's what's really interesting about this, is like you can really feel like there's a lot of different things that he's trying out here. You know, whether it comes to like the shoegazy, Significant Other. No Twilight is kind of more of a PT kind of track. It's kind of heavier. Definitely a dark record. But I don't know, for whatever reason at the time, I just wasn't I didn't really give it the chance it deserved. I guess I wasn't really feeling some of the musical styles on here, which I've come to more appreciate getting a little bit older, seeing that this album is what 2009, nearly 14 years old or whatever. But it's just there's just a lot of experimentation here. I mean, he's got a lot of different musicians, and I think this was probably the experience that he had that he probably was feeling like, man, this is like so much more fun for me. This is kind of
One second. Sorry, Jamie. Hey, Jeff, I think, is that your line noisy? Somebody's line is real noisy.
There we go. That's
yeah.
better. But you can kind of tell, I mean, you could even feel it now listening to this, just, seeing that he really felt that experimentation bug and having done this record and purged, that in his songwriting, I feel like he was like, man, this is way better. This is what I'd rather do than, and obviously the incident, a lot of people felt that was kind of like, that they were sort of rehashing themselves in the Porcupine Tree. So I think in a lot of ways, this was sort of a natural record for him to make because Steve's always been the kind of musician that, the great songwriter that he is, he's able to experiment with a lot of different styles. And there's a lot of different stuff going on here. I know he's cited, I'm not really familiar with really what post-punk is, but I know that was kind of a big influence, the shoegaziness, the maybe the sort of crowd kind of stuff. There's even like some doomy kind of stuff going on here, like some doom metal. But it's cool. It's a cool listen. I mean, for me, like my favorite tracks, Harmony Korine, Abandoner is really cool. I think is Significant Other the real shoegazy track. That one's really
great.
That's
the shoegazy one. Yeah.
And then really like the rest of it's kind of
I'd almost argue Abandoner is kind of trip hoppy a little bit.
I was going to say very Massive Attack, Portishead.
Yeah. I would say probably my favorite track is the title track. I think that's just a really beautiful, nice melodic moment that kind of just harkens to him just, stripping things down and not, relying kind of in a way like, Collapse the Light in the Earth kind of deal. But
I brought this up before, but Steven loves finishing albums with that melancholy kind of like emotional song.
Yeah, it's a dark record for sure. I mean, it's even to this day, like I appreciate it a lot more than I did at the time it was released. And I kind of looked at it at the time thinking like, man, I got so much, Porcupine Tree stuff to listen to, whatever else I was listening to, it just didn't really quite hit the mark for me at the time. But over time, I don't even think he really does much of this live anymore either. The last couple of times I saw him solo live, I don't think he did anything off this album.
I think you're right.
He was toured it a lot early on, so
right.
Yeah,
he was doing Harmony Korine for a long time, and he would do No Twilight. He did No Twilight a couple times. I saw him 3 times solo. I know Doug's seen him a couple times. So has Serge. Yeah, that's a good rundown. Doug, what's your take on this one?
I'm gonna have to kind of pass on this because I didn't do any listening ahead of time. It's been a while since I've listened to this album. I've got it on CD and vinyl, various versions, I'm sure. Looking at the track list, it's a pretty solid album, but there's a couple of songs here that they're just not clicking in my head. So,
okay. Well, I'll jump into a bunch of detail real quick, and then we'll move on. I don't feel pressured to whatever you remember and what you want to get into. That's cool. That's fine. Harmony Korine is very much the PT song. It's the obvious Porcupine Tree sounding song right off the bat. It's a gorgeous track. His vocals are amazing on it. The atmosphere on it's killer. It's just very Porcupine Tree and very much the single. Abandoner is very glitchy. Very Portishead, very Massive Attack-ish, which he's a huge fan of. And then it ends on that crushing, bah, it's just that fucking wall of noise, and you're like, oh, that's so cool. Salvaging is my least favorite song on this album. I just am not a fan of that tune very much. I remember, and when I re-listened to it, I'm like, yeah, that didn't change much. Some other things did. Veno...
Actually, no, you're right. I also had that tied, I guess, for least favorite.
Yeah.
So I didn't notice that. So there you go.
So Vino para las Hadas has a very Sky Move Sideways, as Serge already alluded to, vibe to it. Very ambient. It's a really pretty track, very atmospheric. Dig it. No Twilight, fucking love it. It's in, yeah, I want to say 1321 time. I remembered Gavin telling me one time. I'm like, what the fuck does that even mean, dude? Like,
I
I don't
feel
even,
like it's like
you
a
might know
guitar
what that
nerd
means.
song. I don't know.
Jimmy probably knows what that means, but I have no fucking clue what 1321 times means. Whatever, you know. That truth be told though, I don't even know what 3/4 time means, to be honest with you. I
No,
can play guitar.
it's the time signature of the song, right? So
No,
like,
I know. I'm being a smartass. I mean,
Oh,
what does it really mean though to count it? It's like my kid tried to explain to me how to count time in music, and I'm dumb. I'm fucking stupid when it comes at like 1 2 3, 1 2 3. I'm like, no, man, I feel it. Like I can't count it. That's why I always had trouble in bands. Like I'm just jamming. Everybody's like, dude, you're off time, or it's like that's why I never became a professional musician. I can play well, but I just can't play well with others, I guess. That song fucking crushes. It's the heaviest song on the album. Very King Crimson-y. I fucking
Yeah.
love that tune. Significant Other, very Cocteau Twins-ish. Very Cocteau Twins. Very shoegaze, as you said. Very cool. Love it. I love the ending of this. And it even almost has like a epic metal sound to it, like soundtrack metal sound to it, but it's not metal at all. Only Child has a very 80s Curious sort of riff to it. I really dig Only Child. Twilight Code is just a short interlude with Jordan Rudess on piano. Get All You Deserve is that heavy, doomy, like Jimmy said, very doomy sort of thing, you know, da 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 da, and it's just dark and the really, you know, manic sounding sound wall of sound stuff that comes, in my opinion, from Vidno Mana and the stuff he was doing in Continuum, man. Because Continuum 2 has a lot of that crushing, almost like Sun-O. Everybody calls him Sun-O, but Sun, the band, it's got that just crushing, like rah, like sort of sound to it. Very, very cool. Insurgentes is the instrumental with the koto. It's a really pretty little fade out. It's only about 2 minutes. The album itself is an 8 out of 10 for me, maybe a 9 out of 10. I love it. I was totally psyched for it. I was down for it. Jimmy made some great points about it being Steven's outlet from Porcupine Tree, because what you got to remember is from, you know, in between Fear and the incident, Porcupine Tree's star had been rising from In Absentia to Deadwing to Fear. They were becoming a much more higher profile progressive rock band, if you want to go there. I don't really know that they were ever progressive, but I mean they were, but I don't know that like in the clinical term of 70s prog like Genesis and Yes and all that
Not in
stuff,
the
they weren't.
cliche way, but there's
Right.
certainly, you know.
But when Steve added the heavy guitars, it changed kind of they got the Opeth audience, they got the metal audience paying attention, and it was kind of a different thing. And what I think Jimmy was alluding to and said was that I think Steve did feel a little bit boxed in, like I can't really go back to the Lightbulb Sun or Stupid Dream here and put a more pop song on this stuff now. I've got to kind of follow some semi-rigid, excuse me, Porcupine Tree way of writing, you know, and not that he didn't do that, because he did still. I mean, there's a lot of songs, like for example, I'm gonna make this point a little later. There were a lot of B-side songs like Half Light and um some of the songs on like not Nil Recurring, but What Happens Now, and some of these songs that didn't make the regular album that were put on side project things, or not side project, but EPs, or you know, Porcupine Tree and Wilson have this major habit of releasing a ton of material extraneous from the albums, and that was started kind of around this In Absentia slash Deadwing period where suddenly it's like, oh, there's the EP with the 3 tracks that you didn't have on the album. Oh, we got to buy that now,
I'm gonna argue it goes way back than that. Staircase Infinity's kind of started that. I think.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, you're right, man. With like, and there's a good point. Like we talk about how Wilson oftentimes didn't put stuff on the album that should have. That and not Insignificance. Was is it Insignificance? Right? Was that the EP? Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you had songs on.
Yeah, almost every album had like a companion, so to speak.
Very well put. And that was Staircase was for Up the Downstairs, right?
Yeah.
And it had some killer songs like Rainy Taxi and fucking The Joke's on You, which is one of my favorite songs they ever did. And then you go back to um to Signify, and you got songs on the companion piece like Wake is Gun and Waiting 2 and all these songs that didn't make it on the album. And it's like, fuck, dude, what were you thinking by not putting that on the album? And Wilson's been doing that since the beginning, man. It's just insane the amount of material that he's written. But so real quick on the bonus album, starts off with honestly one of the weirdest tracks Wilson's ever written called Port Rubicon. It's such a weird, strange track, and I know where he got that from because I talked to him about it. He was listening to that album in 2000, I want to say 6, that may have come out by Scott Walker called The Drift. Remember that?
Yeah.
Serge, he was really raving about that album.
Yeah, he was very vocal about it. Yeah,
it's a very bizarre album. I own it. It's the only Scott Walker I own. Very strange, very trippy, cool but weird. Collecting Space, cool PT-ish instrumental, great driving song for driving the car rather. Insurgentes Mexico is a piano only version of the Insurgentes from the main album. And then the 78 is on the CD version, and that's very sinister sounding 80s track. It's got a Cure vibe to it. What's like once again trip hoppy beats. Really, really cool fucking track. One of my favorite tracks that honestly wouldn't have sounded out of sorts for being on that album at all. So for me, No Twilight and Significant Other, the 2 tracks that like blow my mind, and Harmony. But really, really, really killer album. So all right. And did
real
I
quick,
go ahead.
If this album, like I'm thinking back, obviously I can't really hypothesize too much because I don't know if that would have happened. But thinking back, like if when this came out, if you told me it was the new PT album, I would have been happy, and I don't think I would have been particularly shocked or anything. So I sometimes I wonder if it's a box he imagined himself. You know what I mean? And I don't know if it was the fact that the other guys in the band didn't want to do this, although Gavin played drums on this, so and I don't feel like it was something Richard would have hated necessarily. I can't speak for Colin, so I don't know.
Well,
I think this could have I don't feel like it's radically different from PT. But then again, PT.
You mean all the tracks or just the whole album as a whole?
Just the album as a whole.
No, I don't think it's radically different, but I do think there are some tracks on there that Richard is not. I'm sorry. Yeah, is it Richard that's the non-jazz guy? Now I'm forgetting. I think it's Richard that's not a standard jazz lover because
probably.
Colin plays a lot of jazz. But then again,
bunch of weird stuff. But
then again, Richard's played Planets in Persona had quite a bit of jazzy sort of vibes to it.
Yeah, it's again depends what you call jazz, right? I don't think what's on this album is necessarily something that
Well,
hated, but what do I know?
I think you're right. I think Richard's not a huge King Crimson jazz fan. That's where I would go with that.
Now that I would agree with. I think those parts, and there's some of that in the next couple of albums where.
Oh, the next album is fucking full on King Crimson worship for the most part.
Well, half of King Crimson is on some of you.
True. Well, let's jump into that. Let's talk about Grace for Drowning next. Came out 9/26/2011 on K-Scope. Steve Wilson produces. I'm sorry. This was written and released. Wait a minute. Now I'm having to He wrote it and released it during while PT's was doing their final album. Yeah, it was after their final album. The incident. Hold on, I'm fucking reading my notes wrong. Oh, written and released. He wrote and released. I get it now. Okay, he wrote and released PT's final album at the time before the new one album, and this was during 2009. He was also working on Blackfield's third album, and he was also working on Storm Corrosion with Mike Ockerfeld from Opeth. In June of 2011, there was a microsite that opened telling about more about the album, pre-orders, blah blah blah. It was nominated for a Grammy for Best Surround Album. The special edition came with a Blu-ray 5.1 mixes. I didn't buy this one. I'm sure Doug has it, and I think maybe you even have it, Serge.
I do not.
You don't? Okay. The limited edition came with a 120-page book, some films for 5 songs on DVD, one in Mexico, 9/24/2012. Oh, that was the limited edition DVD that came out. This includes Steve Wilson, Pat Masalato from Crimson on drums, Dave Sturt from Hatfield and McCoy, which is a Canterbury band from the 70s. Steve Hackett plays a solo on it. Dave Kersner, who Doug knows, played some keyboards on it. Jordan Rudess keyboards. Nick Beggs bass. Tony Levin bass. Sand Snowman makes an appearance again. Trey Gunn plays the war guitar. And Marcus Rudder from a band called Darkroom, I believe they're called. Doug's off. I'll have to ask him when he comes back. Played infinite guitar on it, which is like this spacey, echoey guitar. Various studios used.
So you had three members of King Crimson from
You did. 3 members. That's correct. Or 3 alumni, rather. Anyways, because Trey Gunn isn't in them now. He was then, I believe. Let me see what else do we have on here. I thought I had different notes on the who's banging around. Is that Doug?
Doug might be.
Yeah, kick your mic off, please.
Sorry.
Till you come back. That's cool. Yeah, I thought I had a note on. I guess there was only the book version, like Insurgentes, and it all came out simultaneously, right? Oh, there it is. I said you have it.
Very, huh?
You said you didn't have the special.
Oh, I thought you were referring to something else. No, I do have this one, yeah. And it's the same like size and format and everything. So
right, and that has what, a bonus CD and then the 5.1, right?
Yeah. So there's
and then what's the thing down the bottom there? Is that the DVD?
That's the etc.
Okay. Shit, I don't know if I wrote that down. What that was? Crap, I might have goofed on this, guys. Sorry. Does that have contents in there?
That's
like what's on there?
Let me see. What is that?
So disc 1's the studio album. What's the second one? Bonus tracks?
So that third CD is the demos and outtakes. So
okay. What's the second CD? Oh, this is a 2 CD one. That's right.
Yeah,
I forgot.
That's a 2 CD.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So this has 2 CDs in the album. It's a 2 CD package. Then there's a okay. I do have it. Then I do. Okay. 5.1 mix on the. I believe it's on a Blu-ray on that one, right? Pretty sure.
Probably at this point they started doing that. If it says that. Can't really tell.
Yeah, I believe it is. And then the demos we'll talk about. So you want to talk about this one, Serge?
I'll talk about the album. I honestly did not get to listen to the
I'll hit the bonus tracks.
The demos. Let's see. So yeah, and again, I think there's a general King Crimson vibe here, at least in more of the tracks. Let's see. No Part of Me was one of my favorites. I love like kind of melancholy songs, sad stuff. And then, has like a nice instrumental build up. Raider 2 is a crazy track because it's 23 minutes long. And there's like so many pieces. It's hard to so many different things going on. It's hard to even describe as one song. I love Theo pretty much in anything he does. So I
Yeah, he's more pronounced usage wise on this album, way more.
yeah, he definitely starts being used more. And again, I love all the Theo parts. The Form to Form a Star has some good stuff. I like the guitar parts on there. There's a little bit more filler for me on this album.
There's a lot more tracks too.
Well, there's more tracks, but even just in terms of like songs, I was like, it's okay. But like, I don't know, like a song like Sectarian, right? But again, I think that's where like I don't necessarily get into like the King Crimson-y stuff as much. Like, I just don't know where it's going. There's some parts that are interesting, but I can't tell where it's going, with that song. So,
Right.
I think this is a more difficult album for me to process in general than Venus or Hentes. And maybe a little like a little bit less kind of accessible song. And again, it finishes on a slow song, but that one I think didn't touch me as much.
Like Dust I've Cleared.
Yeah.
So for
Similar-
you overall, what you're getting at is this was a lot more dense and a lot more difficult to digest.
Yeah. And this is maybe where we're getting to like that part of quote unquote jazz though, where it's not as easily consumed. So
It's got a little bit more of a free jazz sort of vibe to it.
yeah.
So this one drops quite a bit from the first album for you then.
I don't know if it's like a lot, but I would definitely rank Insurgentes higher. I think it had more songs that grabbed me more. You know what I mean?
Okay. Doug, you gonna bow out, you said?
Yeah, I'm just not feeling too good right now. So,
All right, man. I mean, I don't want to chase you off, man.
oh no, it's no problem.
I
'Cause
wasn't
I got a
scolding
bum
you.
hip right now. All my CD stuff's a couple of rooms away, and all my Steve Wilson stuff's and behind a bunch of boxes, which was all
Yeah,
that.
but you
crashed
didn't have
around.
to dig that. You didn't have to dig that shit out to join us, dude. I mean, we all have most of the stuff. I know you wanted to show some stuff off, but I mean, it's not necessary. You know what I mean? You want to just sit and listen? You're welcome to just hang and listen.
Yeah, I'm gonna drop off and listen because.
Okay. All right, man. Well, I mean, you only just got that done, what, like 8-9 days ago? So I kind of get that.
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised you wanted to jump in because that's why I didn't bug you. So,
Well, I was feeling good for a little bit, so if you want a quick story, I can tell a quick story or
go for it. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, the big fun one was it's really Porcupine Tree, but Steve Wilson specifically. He came to the States to record Fear of a Blank Planet, and he did it in Wes's studio, and I very meekishly asked if I can pop in and say hello.
Well, tell them you live very close to Wes.
Well, at the time I lived just a couple of miles away from him.
Right.
And I actually met him after a Porcupine Tree show, and he's, you're from, I'm from Brandon. You're from Brandon. He's like, yeah, I'm from Brandon. You should come out to one of my shows. And when the tour was over, he used to, do cover gigs at this place called Cheddar's. And I stopped in. He remembered me, bought me dinner. We sat and talked, and realized that I was a real friend, not somebody just trying to get in on the inside. And
right.
So, I'm still good friends with him and his wife. And so, this story goes, yeah, around the time Favorite Blank Planet, and I asked if I can say
Hang
hi,
out.
and he's like, yeah, he arranged a day, and at the time the studio was in a really bizarre place, and I rang the buzzer, and I waited a moment, and head pops out, international pop star, and it's Steve with these glasses his girlfriend, green glasses, sunglasses that his girlfriend had, and it was just such a funny thing, and he let me in. Apparently he left his actual glasses at home, so he was having a problem seeing things.
Well,
So, they just finished up tracking some guitars on Fear of a Blank Planet, and he's like, "So, would you like to hear?" Like, well, yeah, of course I'd like to hear. And in a pressure situation like that, it's like, things are just running through my head. I can't embarrass my friend in any way. I like the band. I don't want to appear that I'm overly zealous, and
right.
so they played the track, which was totally killer.
You remember what song it was? Beer?
No, I can't recall offhand. And it was really good. And he was like, "Well, we're just taking a break now. If you want to hang out." And I sat and talked with his girlfriend at the time, and I'd say I was there for maybe a half hour, and they're going to start kicking things back up again. So I had to leave, and I later asked Wes if Steve wouldn't mind signing a few things.
850 albums later.
So he said, bring over whatever you got. And it was a lot. It was 2 big boxes of stuff.
Stupid. God.
And he spent a week signing each and every one of them.
Holy fuck, dude.
That's why, a lot of my
You never told me this story before.
Oh. I got some wacky stuff like from Richard Allen. I bought some stuff, so I got original lithographs. No, that's not the word. It's the poster for The Sky Moves Sideways. I have the films for that. So if anybody ever needs that poster printed up, I bought it off him for X dollars, and that was the one thing he didn't sign. When I showed up to pick everything up, it was funny because there was, what was those little CDs?
The mini CDs?
The mini CDs. Yeah, he had released a series of 2 or 3 of them, and I had the latest one, and he hadn't even seen it yet.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's like, what is this? It's like, that's yours. Like, came in the mail just, shortly beforehand.
Was that the Bass Communion mini CD? Probably. I think it was, because I think that's where he put them out from. It was Fry Band.
Right. Yeah.
It was that collaboration with Fry Band, I think it was called. Yeah.
Then he whips out a vinyl album, and he goes, what's this? And it was something, Ambulance Chasing was the name of the album. It's like, honestly, I don't know. And he goes, this is a bootleg.
Yeah.
It's not even a good bootleg, but somebody spent the time to actually put this out on vinyl, and that impressed him.
Yeah, impressed him.
Actually bootleg a vinyl instead of just a CD.
A CD, yeah.
And so
there's no doubt, Doug, you might possibly have the biggest PT collection in the United States, maybe in the world, but definitely in the States. I mean, I've seen a lot of your stuff. You own some of my stuff that you own. Bought a lot of shit from me that was rare, like Tone Floating, which you didn't have, which that would have been something we could have talked about. But yeah, I mean, Doug's got crazy shit. I mean, if I was going to be around much longer. Oh, there it is. Yeah, that was originally mine. I got that in the Bowery Ballroom when I went there to see PT with Serge. And it was one of the last copies that Michael Piper had left. Rip Michael Piper. Who had what was it called? But what was his thing called?
Gates of Dawn. What?
Gates of Dawn. Yeah, Gates of Dawn. Yeah. So Jimmy's probably like, what the fuck are they talking about here? But this is a lot of like going way back with all the crazy stuff that Doug and I and Serge have collected over the years. A lot of my stuff I liquidated, the valuable stuff, because I got into a real jam financially about 10 years ago. And Doug actually helped me buy a Martin guitar because he bought all my vinyls from the stuff, because I wasn't playing any of it. I had all this vinyl that I bought from PT and No Man and Bass Community and shit that I didn't play because I didn't own a record player. It was my goal to get one, but then my marriage that wasn't to be ended up splitting, and I had to get out, and I had to get money together. So, but yeah, we got to, assuming I'm around for a bit, which I just don't know, but let's assume that I do. We got to set something up, Doug, that you get all your shit out when you're feeling a little better and show that stuff off, because it's crazy what you have, man. But do not divulge your location. Do not.
Well, I tell you what.
Well, we know it's within a couple miles of West, right? So.
We know he's well, not anymore, but we know he's in, because he moved. But we know he's in Florida. That's all we'll say, people. So good luck.
The one final thing I'd say is, I'd always bring a bunch of stuff to sign at every show that I went to. And on more than one occasion, say like Radio City Music, I actually went to dinner with Wes that evening. And on the walk back, I came across the line, which was like around the corner down the street. And I just went up to the front to peek at what was going on up there. And, some people were like, "Hey man, are you the guy that has all those weird PT releases, Steve Wilson releases?" Yeah. I was like, "Well, what do you got now?" And I open up my case and that I had with me, and they're like, "Oh shit, man, yeah, you can stay up here with us."
Yeah, you're lucky you didn't get fucking rolled and get your ass beat.
Well, it was seated, the venue, but
right.
They
I was
had
there.
limited edition posters.
Yeah, Serge and I were there. Yeah.
So
I was there. I remember. I ran into it. We talked. Don't you remember that?
I can't remember.
Dude, I'm the one with the brain injury and the guy that's dying, and you don't remember fucking talking to me there? Man.
Now, to be
shit.
fair, Jeff, you have a much better memory of shows than I think most of us.
Well, I'll give you this, Doug. You're weaning off your pain meds. I'll give you that. But you guys don't. Even Serge, you don't remember a lot of shit. I'll be like, dude, don't you remember when we did that?
My memory's terrible, man. That's why I take photos so I can remember shit.
I'm the same way. My memory is not good at all.
Hang on, you guys there?
Yeah.
What's going on here? Fuck. I think my headphones are shitting the bed on me. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, that's back. All right, Doug. Well, look, thanks for popping in. If you're gonna go ahead and go. I do gotta kind of move because I don't want to keep these guys till 1 o'clock.
Yeah,
but I appreciate you jumping in, and we'll try to hook up one day and see if we can do just a small live stream so you can pimp all your shit. I mean, I still have some cool stuff, but I don't have nearly the cool stuff you do anymore. I mean, most of my shit's down to samplers and semi-rare stuff, and I always was the guy that got the promo advanced stuff that most other people didn't get. But then it's been a long time since that happened. That never happened. After, I will say this one quick story about Insurgentes. Steven and I were very much in contact a lot back then, and I asked him how things were going with something, and he sent me one. He's like, "You want to hear a song?" And he sent me the Port Rubicon track, which is the worst track on the whole thing. I'm like, man, I hope the rest of the album isn't going to be like this, because that fucking was weird, man. Like that just didn't do it for me. But all right, Doug, good to see you, brother.
Okay,
I'll talk to you. Maybe I'll give you a call or tomorrow or Sunday or something like that. See how you're doing.
Okay.
Bye, dude. Peace out.
Cheers, man.
I'll boot you. Did I boot him? Okay, he's gone. All right. So,
real quick, as a segue from Doug and into the next phase. So, when Steven toured Grace for Drowning, he put out a live album called Catalog Preserve a Mass, which is what Doug did, I think. And I just realized I have a signed version of it. Apparently.
Oh, look at you.
I don't remember, I don't remember the story behind that.
Can I see it again?
And I'm
I don't have that.
definitely not the person to bring shit to shows to sign, as Jeff knows. So.
Yeah, you're not. Yeah. Can I see that again? I don't even own that. Oh, nice. Yeah, I don't own that. That's a Carl Glover cover, I'm sure.
No,
I'm sure it is.
that's Lassie, man. I think
Is it Lassie?
at this point, Lassie was doing everything. I think.
Yeah, that looks like
no, I'm
Carl
sorry.
Glover.
The photo is by Lassie. The design is by Carl. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, and
Jimmy
did collaborate a lot. So.
Jimmy, talk to me about Grace.
Off mute here. Okay, cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, so at this point, was Porcupine Tree put to bed when this came out, or was it still?
Yes,
it was
2011.
It was.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was. I mean, it was never officially over, but it was over.
Right. It seemed like it was. I mean, I remember feeling like it was over. Like, I mean, I don't even remember what the wording was in terms of like if they said like they were just taking a break, but I remember feeling like it was definitely, done.
Well, they did the Radio City show in New York in September. Remember the day that we did the first stream about Porcupine Tree? They did that show, and I believe they did some. That was September, and they did some October dates. They played Royal Albert Hall, and then it just kind of like he went into the second solo album release situation, went touring with it, and then that was just it. I don't know that there was ever an actual statement made, but in doing interviews for the tour for this, he started dropping Porcupine Tree's kind of probably done for now. I'm going to focus on my solo career. That's kind of, I think, how it came out.
Yeah. I mean, I probably could have said this about Insurgentes, but I mean, especially for this one, it's definitely a mixed bag in terms of, the music on here. It's quite ambitious. It's quite, if you want to say experimental, just like Insurgentes at the time, like I felt like, like knowing that Porcupine Tree was kind of at the end and like not really being huge into the first record, I wasn't really too interested in this. I think I had listened to, I don't even remember what I heard, but whatever it was, I was like, what is this noodly bullshit? I didn't like it at all. I just didn't pay attention to it whatsoever. I probably heard like, something off Sectarian or Remain to the Dog or something, which are good songs. I mean, all the big, like, epic, like prog tracks on here, definitely good. It's just like, for me, it's kind of like, kind of the same way I feel about a lot of King Crimson stuff. It's just like, it's cool, but it's just, I guess it's not for me. It's just a little too like out there, experimental, weird, avant-garde, whatever you want to call it, that I just don't really find myself connecting with it too much. But, like kind of going back to the record, and I listened to this quite a bit this week, and, I definitely, there's a lot that I like about it, a lot I don't. I still kind of haven't really changed how I feel about it, when I finally did give the whole thing a full listen. But again, it really truly is a mixed bag of stuff, where you have a lot of, crazy experimentation. And then there's just like kind of more subdued songwriting, in terms of things like To Form a Star, which is, I think it's a beautiful, wonderful song. No Part of Me and Postcard. Like Dust I've Cleared From My Eye, I really, really like a lot. I mean, those are really like the big tracks for me. The more kind of big proggy kind of stuff, I can listen to it and be like, oh, that was cool. But, it's not really like something I'd really want to go back to a whole lot. Kind of going back to like, it just kind of feels like it's not a very cohesive effort, but not surprising in that, he's still in that phase where he's like, man, he found like this creative freedom in, doing his own thing and separating himself from Porcupine Tree that I think, was a very natural result as to what this became. One thing I'll note too is this is absolutely my favorite artwork out of any of his records.
Yeah, it's cool looking.
But what's really interesting about the artwork is I can't really marry the artwork with the music. Like it's just it's got this really drab kind of bleak, really cool landscapey kind of stuff with like the sort of like entity sitting out there. I really love that image there. I just think that's really beautiful. I mean, we're obviously into the phase where, our boy
Very
wonder
much your alley.
Yeah, I mean, Boy Wonder's got to be on all the cover arts, from here on out.
Yep.
But yeah, there's these wonderful, like, sort of pastoral, nature-like images. Especially this one is really striking, I think. Just these sort of like entities on these horses. But again, like, I don't really know how to marry this artwork with the music because it doesn't really fit with me. Like, to me, that almost could be like a, cover art for like some atmospheric black metal band or something like that. Still interesting.
Yeah, actually.
I'm always still trying to figure that out when it comes to the artwork here and what those decisions were. But regardless, this is absolutely, I mean, in terms of the Wilson stuff, most of the artworks, I thought the artworks in Insurgentes was pretty cool. This was the ultimate. And going forward, obviously the artwork devolves completely from, the next one's good, but from there it devolves completely. I
agree.
But yeah, this is a good record, man. And I just find, like, for me, that there's moments, like, there's songs I like and there's songs I don't. There's a lot of experimentation, which at the end of the day, like, I kind of want, like, really great songs from Steven Wilson, because he's one of the greatest songwriters for me in the pantheon of the music that I listen to. So I really, really look for that. So, and there are those moments where the songwriting is just amazing. But again, like, I it's sort of expected to see him do some, like, really crazy, just like 20-minute track, like Serge was saying. And I also agree with what Serge was saying is that, I kind of have a hard time, like, kind of finding in those songs, like, something to really, like, latch on to. I think, this kind of marks, I don't want to say, like, the end of his experimentation, but, like, really, like, the definitive statement in his, like, okay, I've just kind of blown my wad on all kinds of different music. Now maybe I'm going to have to get a little bit more structure as to my solo records going forward, and we'll speak about that on the next record. But
right.
Yeah, good stuff, man. I mean, for me, Deform to Form a Star, beautiful. That's probably my favorite track, with No Part of Me, Postcard, and Like Dust I Have Cleared from My Eye, those are the kind of songs I like to hear from Steven Wilson. So, yeah, good stuff.
So you're probably, both of you, and Serge knows me well, so you're probably going to find that, or not find it surprising that I really kind of dig this album a lot. And I hadn't listened to it in a long time. Again, to reiterate what Serge had said, it's been years since I've gone back to these albums. Many years. A lot of years. And when I put this one on, I remember thinking, man, this thing is, very dense, like you guys when it first came out. Very dense, very eclectic, very experimental, very out there. But I'm a pretty big fan of early Crimson, mid-period Crimson, before Adrian Belew comes on board. I really love the first 5, 6 albums of Crimson because they are so esoterically weird and difficult to, they're not just simple music that you listen to. But yeah, so, Grace for Drownings, nice little instrumental, pretty, but kind of throwaway. You got Sectarian, which, that was a good way of putting it, Serge, that you're not sure where it's going. This one's kind of crimson-y. The Mellotron bit's pretty cool. The sax is pretty crazy in it. A lot of crazy sax on this thing. But it's very, that song's very free form. I can see where if you're not into jazz or you're not into saxophone, you're not going to like that song at all. Deform to Form a Star is really cool, wistful ballad, really, really pretty gorgeous song. Part of Me is kind of weepy. What do I put here? Oh, wait. No, that's that one's got the weirdly electronic and cool. I like the Postcard. That's cool. Raider Prelude is the choirs are very sinister and creepy, man. That one has like a super sinister vibe to it because it's the precursor to Raider 2, which we'll talk about in a minute here. Remainder of the Black Dog, one of my favorite songs on the album. I love that piano. It's such a weird, it keeps you off balance, that piano riff on Remainder of the Black Dog. And then it just builds and builds and builds. Lots of cool ass flute. I'm always in for flute, no matter what. Like, I fucking love, especially if you use flute with delay and echo on it, or delay and echo.
Big Lizzo fan, huh?
Huh?
Big Lizzo fan, huh?
Who?
Never mind.
What
Jeff,
did you say?
You don't even know, like, probably top top 40 these days. So
No, I don't and know anything about top 40,
uh,
dude.
no,
I'm a big Ian Anderson fan. Does that work for you? There you go.
I know. Man.
What else do we have here? The weird thing about Remain to the Black Dog is I can never get it out of my head. Every time that song starts, I'm waiting for it to sound like a Led Zeppelin song. I'm serious. Like in my head, I connect Black Dog to Remain to the Black Dog, so it's like I go there.
I got you.
Belle de Jour is a wistful, pretty ballad. Index, very Gary Newman-ish. Very Gary Newman-ish.
I thought this was kind of a foreshadow to his later work.
Well, certainly the more recent two albums,
The last
for sure.
couple albums,
Yeah. I love Index. I think that song's fucking killer. Raider 2, Crazy Insane Crimson Rush. If you listen to Raider 2, listen very closely for the super nod to Cygnus X1 from Farewell to Kings, because it's there. The part where it goes, it's Steve almost, I don't want to say rips it off, but it's pretty fucking close. Now, that's the, 22-minute track, right? I think it's 22 minutes. 23. I fucking love that track. It's so bizarre. It's so weird. And allegedly, at least Wikipedia says, so I don't know whether it's true at all or not, Raider 2 was based on the BTK killer. I've never heard that, ever. I never heard Steve ever say that, but maybe he did. I don't know.
Based on what?
It was based on sonically and lyrically about the BTK, Bind, Torture, Kill killer.
Okay. All right, sure.
I don't know. I never heard that, but maybe it is.
I mean, it wasn't to those sort of themes, so sure.
Let's see. What else? Like Dust I Have Cleared From My. A very typical Steve Wilson, wistful, ballady, singer-songwriter song. I love that song. It's a great song. Bonus tracks. What do we have here? That was on the book version. Home in Negative. Cool acoustic intro. Very SW-ish. Pretty. That piano riff gets in your head, and it's hard to forget. Fluid Tap. Cool tune. Trippy. Psychedelic, especially the ending. Very druggy feeling. Electronic bass. And that piano riff gets in your head. It speaks to me. I think that was from Black Dog. That's not on this track. Sorry. The Map, trip hop but sinister, eerie like Index, only instrumental, killer. Raider Acceleration, more Crimson weirdness, ass loads of sax. Black Dog Throwbacks. I did not listen to that song, and I did not listen to the demo, the Raider 2 demo. I don't know if it's a lot different. I just didn't have time with that, and that song's like 23 minutes, and then the 19-minute Personal Shopper on the last album. I just didn't have time to get those in. This album is very experimental in the jazz field, freeform jazz, rather. I'm sorry, jam sense at times, and with a few ballads that are more typical SW. Yeah, so it's very much like freeform jazz jamming, a couple of electronic bass tunes, and then the more typical SW sort of semi singer-songwriter ballads with a little bit of PT. There's hardly any PT in this album. I don't hear much PT in this album.
This one was probably less so than like the first few.
Yeah. But that said, this is probably still a 9.5 for me. I still really dig this, and re-listening to it today, I really was like, whoa, I forgot how good this is. So, all right, we ready to move on to The Raven That Refused to Sing and Other Stories?
Sure.
All right, cool. Jimmy, you got that one? Want to show it?
Yeah, another
Nice.
cover art I really dig. Just a standard vinyl copy of it.
Let me throw some facts out on it while you're showing it
go
real
ahead.
quick. So 2/25/13 this comes out. It did come out in a 4-disc set with a 128-page book of lyrics, ghost stories. The artwork there was Lasse Hoyle and Hajo Mueller. On this time, the band consists of Marco Miniman on drums, Aziz Ibrahim on guitar for the second leg of the tour. On the first leg, John Wesley did the tour, and I did see him on this tour. I'm sorry. I goofed. Backing up, this was the touring band for Grace. Was Marco Miniman, Aziz Ibrahim on guitar, but he only played in the European shows. John Wesley on the first leg, Nick Beggs on bass, Adam Holzman on keys, Theo Travis on flutes and sax. I saw them in Philadelphia. Serge, you were at that show, right?
Yeah.
No, you weren't. No, you weren't at that one.
What?
Were you at the one at Temple?
Well, it was either in Philly or the city that I would have gone.
I think you went to the New York City one. I don't think we crossed paths on this. I went down. Lewis came in. Lewis, fuck, I forgot his last name. Louis, you know Louis.
I know. Yeah, it starts with a T. I can whatever.
Torregrossa.
There you go.
He flew in from Michigan, and we went down to this show. And I also went with my ex-fiance and our kids. And after the show, it's the last time I saw Steve was in 2013 at this show, or 2011 at this show. Sorry. For Grace. Let me pull back for 1 minute, Jimmy. We'll come back to you. We'll let you go first on this one. He did not tour, as I recall, for Insurgentes. He toured proper for Grace for Drowning. And I saw him in Philly at the Temple University, had a venue there. And this was the one that he really expanded his show. He had the big curtains that would drop, all the backing stuff that he used with PT. And Aziz Ibrahim was this Israeli guitar player that he was going to use on the tour, but he was not because of not post 9/11, because this was November we saw him. He could not get into the country because of all the post 9/11 shit that was going on with regards to visas, and he was also Israeli, which I think probably there was a bit of profiling potentially there going on. So he called Wes up, and Wes kind of came in, and I think Wes had like 5 days to learn all the material, and he came in as the lead guitar player. We went down to see him, Catherine and I, and our 4 kids. After the show, I went down to talk to Steve with Lewis, and that's the time that Steve kind of blew me off and barely spoke to me. It was kind of weird, and it kind of bummed me out a little bit and kind of affected the way I thought about things for quite a while. But anyway, after the show, we were talking to Marco and Wesley, and Steve walked out, and he invited us to go to this after show restaurant, but it was a bar, and I knew we wouldn't get in with our kids, so we couldn't go. So we went home. But I don't think you were at that one, dude. You usually came to Philly shows, but I think you ended up going to the New York show only on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't remember.
Yeah, there was something about you coming down to Philly. I think it conflicted with either another. I don't remember what it was, but you didn't end up coming down. So that one was just Lewis and I. But all right, so we'll go back to Jimmy real quick and real fast. Double vinyl on this one, which Jimmy looks like he's got. CD Blu-ray, which came out in 2012. This one sold over 100,000 copies, surprisingly. Let's see. He planned to go back to PT, but then decided to go solo. So that's the notes I have on that. PT went on hiatus. And again, Album of the Year for 2011 Progressive Music Awards. Yeah. Okay. So go ahead, Jimmy.
Yeah. I remember thinking when this came out that I was finally like, wow, he's really got kind of solidified a lineup. I always kind of regret that. I think I guess when you guys were talking about the Grace for Drowning tour, when he got all these guys together as the touring lineup, that actually did come through here in Colorado, but I was out of town at the time. And it would have been my only chance to see him play with Marco Miniman on drums, who Marco Miniman is one of my favorite drummers of all time. I've been following him for a long time now. So when I found out that he was the drummer, coming up, that really got me excited about Wilson's solo career. I remember they put out the the live DVD. What is it called? I think it's Get All You Deserve, or
get all you deserve.
Yeah. And they debuted the track Luminol on that DVD, and my buddy, who's a huge fan, had that, and that was, showed it to me one night when I was over, and it was like, hadn't really paid attention in a while. I was like, all right, man, this is great. That looks like there's a solid lineup. He's got, a real, because I guess he hadn't really toured the solo stuff until the Grace for Drowning lineup, right?
Yeah,
so
he didn't tour for Insurgentes, right?
Yeah, so I mean, so that kind of, it sort of forecasted what was coming with this record, and getting to hear Luminol. I remember thinking, oh man, this is great. This is like, kind of right back up my alley for, I mean, it's kind of a epic sort of prog track, but it goes through a lot of movements, not unlike Anesthetize in a way, and that it has different feelings to it, different, but it works though. It's not like, just like Anesthetize, like you could almost look at that as 3 different songs, but in a lot of ways it works as one singular track. So that kind of what I was reminded of listening to Luminol. So, and then, the impending release was this, and it had come out. And I felt like, oh, this is great. I mean, he's got this amazing lineup. I remember watching that DVD and seeing Alan Holtzman and being like, wow, that guy, is incredible. I mean, he's got this, completely different than Richard Barbieri. I mean, this guy was like, true like classical pianist. Just completely.
He played with Miles Davis, right?
That's right. Yeah, I mean, and, his father had a lot of history, and what was his father owned, like Sony or something like that?
Yeah, his father's like was a big fucking deal. I forget. You're right.
Big fucking deal, mogul,
Yeah.
like a media mogul kind of guy.
Yeah.
But as far as the record, I remember picking it up, and I actually have the CD as well. I picked up the vinyl later, but instantly. I mean, like I wouldn't say like I wouldn't like give this a 10 out of 10, even though it probably is deserving of a 10 out of 10, because I mean, it's everything about it is pretty perfect. It's just for me, like just in terms of like the songs, like there's a couple that are, maybe the Holy Drinker and the Watchmaker for me are not as memorable. Like they're good songs for sure, no doubt. But like I always remember like trying to like think back on this record and being like, I can't like visualize the whole thing fully because those songs never really quite hit with me, even though they're really good. I listened to them quite a bit this week, and I still kind of felt the same way. That like, the instrumentation, there's a lot going on that's really cool. It just wasn't as, like memorable as the rest of the record. With Luminol, Drive Home is a good track, but ultimately the pin drop. And I would say for me, the title track to this record is probably, more important to me than probably anything he's ever written. Very, very personal, very, I would say, is up there with the most beautiful, amazing songs that he's ever written, is The Raven That Refused to Sing. And I really love the concept, and I really love the, if you ever watch the video, like the illustration to it, like it all like kind of brings, the one thing I really love about this record is the concept of it. It's sort of like these, kind of like these very, like sort of just like
Stories.
Yeah, well, like those stories, like
Allegedly,
like young adult, like young adult fiction, sort of. And that was something I was big into, like growing up. My mom writes young adult fiction, and she was really big in bringing up on those kind of things. So this was very much that to me, like those young stories that were kind of ghostly, but not not like scary, just like more. Right. Kind of like fables in a way, and I thought, if you go read all the different, concepts to these stories are very, very well thought out, very good. I mean, like as a whole, I mean, it's still probably not like my favorite, but goddamn, was he on a roll, getting started with this one, with the lineup that he had and the amazing musicianship that's here. I mean, I never heard Guthrie Govan, I mean, that's. I mean, this guy is incredible.
Insane.
I mean, just an amazing lineup. I mean, like if you thought like the Porcupine Tree lineup is amazing, which they are, this is something wholly different. But boy, did he put a lineup together here. Yep. I mean, this is the class. I mean, Nick Beggs, fucking Holzman, Marco Miniman, and Guthrie Govan. Guthrie Govan is, I mean,
pretty sure that Theo Travis is also still on this one with the live thing.
Yeah, a good bit, but you definitely feel like he kind of honed in, sort of coming off of like Grace for Drowning, these last two records were very experimental, very just like mixed bags of different influences of things he wanted to try. Felt like he finally really found a personality in his solo work with this record. And yeah, man, I would encourage anybody that watches this that maybe might not be familiar with the catalog, just go pull up the video of them doing The Raven That Refused to Sing live and tell me that that's not one of the most beautiful, amazing songs you've ever heard.
Keep in mind one thing that you brought up about the supernatural ghost stories. That was the whole thing behind it. Remember that Deadwing is based on a ghost story, and they were trying to get him. He was trying to get a movie made with his buddy Mike Benyon for that movie, for that album concept that was much more involved. Allegedly, there is some footage out there of something that they shot, but I don't know that they've never been able to get the funding to do a full-fledged, movie. It must take like stupid amounts of money to make a real movie. But yeah, I agree. This one, though, oddly for me, didn't have the hitting power that it did for you, as you say. Serge, I'll get to me in a minute. Why don't we jump on to you?
All right. This is, by the way, the CD version, so that's what I had. So, and by the way, this is, I think, when Stephen honed in on, he took a couple of his favorite concepts, I feel like, and just merged them, which is ghost stories, and which he has certainly referenced in the past, and relationships. So he kind of made ghost stories about relationships.
A good point.
So Luminal is, I kind of feel like that's my lesser favorite song on here, because I almost feel like it screams like this is Prague.
It does, and it's fucking glorious to me. I love it.
It's in like it tries to check off the Prague cliche.
Boxes, yeah.
I don't know. Listening back to it, I'm like, wow, this is kind of hilarious almost in a way. But it's still got that pretty midsection. It's still got Theo on it. So just because I rank other songs higher, I certainly didn't hate Luminal or anything. So Dry Foam's good. Holy Drinker is one of my two favorites on this one. I feel like that's probably the most PT-ish. Well, one of the two PT-ish songs on here.
Which one?
Holy Drinker.
Okay.
Obviously, in addition to Theo and the organ, which is not quite a PT thing, but overall, I thought it felt like that. Pin Drop was the other one I felt like could be a PT song.
Yeah.
Watchmaker was my favorite one on here.
Great track.
You know me again. I like his sad songs, and more Theo Travis. So, and there's a lot going on in there, but that to me is my favorite track in the album. Raven's really pretty.
You said the Watchmaker was your favorite?
Yeah.
Interesting.
One thing I would note is, he had like Dave Stewart arranged strings on this album, and he's kind of used strings, I think, more in his solo stuff. I'm kind of not a huge fan of it. I'd rather get like weird electronic atmosphere with like Richard stuff and
all the sappy strings.
Yeah, I feel like the strings are just kind of take me out a little bit sometimes. But overall, I think this might be like my second favorite. Trying to think. Yeah, I'd say this is probably my second favorite album.
Huh. Okay. That's good. I mean, I can see why. I think this one, even though a lot of the songs are very long, they're all fairly long songs. You only have 6 songs on the album, and it's like, 60 minutes roughly? So they're all pushing, some are in the 13,
I feel
14, 15-minute mark. And
better. Again, you got a concept, and they kind of work together better. And I don't know, it's a little less chaotic.
Oh, it's definitely way less chaotic than Grace, for sure. You don't have the ballady stuff on here, but they're kind of the ballads are kind of within the songs, like the Watchmaker and Drive
Right.
Home
They're parts.
and Raven for sure. All right, so for me, I just have the CD version. I did not pull any of my CDs, so I just have the regular CD version. I don't think I even got the. It's weird, man. You know what? I'm gonna say it because I don't care. Steve's never gonna see this, but even if he does, Steve, if you do, I'm just laying it out there. I was kind of hurt pretty bad by the way the reception I got after Grace at the show, and it kind of made me feel like sort of lower than whale shit because I thought we were friends. I didn't, I left when PT split up and everything. Wasn't emailing him constantly, and hardly at all. In fact, when I last saw him in Virginia on the Incident tour, we had a nice exchange. But I was supposed to go on the bus, the Big Elf bus. By the way, got my Big Elf shirt on, and but I didn't because I misinterpreted what he said, and I never got on. And when I saw him after the Grace thing, it was like he was looking for other people and kind of looked through me, and I was like, well, that's kind of weird. So I ended up kind of feeling a bit slighted and hurt. And I'll be honest, when this album came out, I just wasn't that interested in it. I just wasn't. I picked up the CD version. Oh, you guys left. Oh, you're there. Okay. I picked up the CD version. I'm like, yeah, I'm not spending a lot of extra money on this. I didn't on the Grace for Drowning limited edition. I do have the Insurgentes one here. I was one of the early buyers of that, I'm sure. And so in a weird way, I let sort of my personal feelings get in the way of my desire to be a fan anymore. That was kind of stupid. So when I got this, it just kind of rolled in one ear and went out the other. I was like, it's just, I don't know. It's not really what I'm into. And there was still a lot of talk early on in Steve's solo career about Porcupine Tree getting back together. There was always that question to him. Are you? And he'd be like, "No, it's probably dead." And there's guys in that band that don't like, to do stuff that I like to do, and they don't like jazz, and they don't like metal, and they don't like, I want to be able to do it all on my solo records, and I can do that. There was also those inevitable questions about, or statements by him about, well, I'm in a band now where the players are generally much better than the guys in Porcupine Tree. Now, he never said names. But he knows, as well as you and I know, that there really aren't that many drummers better than Gavin Harrison. However, Marco Miniman is a fucking monster drummer. Is Guthrie Govan a better guitar player than Steve? Yes. Is Guthrie Govan a better guitar player than Wes? Absolutely. Is Guthrie Govan a better guitar player than 99,000 other guitar players out there? Yes, he is. They went out and hired one of the best guys out there or some of the best guys out there in Holzman. And great point, Jimmy. Holzman, Guthrie Govan, Marco Miniman, and Nick Beds. This band was a force live.
It
Just
was
absolutely incredible.
virtuoso, but I'll say this: like sometimes at live shows, it's almost too much. You almost have that like Dream Theater moment where like, all right, relax.
Well, they never got Dream Theaters, but I get what you're saying. They are, as virtuosos, they were all crazy. Now, I didn't get to see them on this tour because when Guthrie Govan was with them and Marco Minima, I only saw Marco on them with the Grace for Drowning Tour. And the reason they got Guthrie Govan is because Marco was playing with Steve and Marco was playing with Guthrie and managed to pull Guthrie in because Marco and Guthrie play in the Aristocrats. And there's an interesting little story that we'll talk about after the next album, that involves Marco and Guthrie and why they weren't in the band anymore. It gets a little hot, as I recall. And I don't know, I wasn't there, so when we get to that, I'll asterisk it. For me, Luminol, man, I get what you're saying, but you're right. It's ticking every box in the prog thing, but it's so cool, man. It's such a fucking ripping track. It is so damn good. I love that song. Drive Home, I love it. Great, very memorable. That it's so melodic, so pretty. Guthrie does a monster fucking guitar solo in that song. It is fucking killer. The Holy Drinker, I call that the heavy metal song on the album. It's definitely the heavy track. It's Sinister Rhodes playing at the beginning. Very, very cool. It's a heavy banger. I like that one a lot. Really killer song. The pin drop, it begins sounding a little bit like the beginning of Disappear, Serge. Another bonus track that didn't make an album that should have been on an album. Disappear, one of my...
I felt like it was kind of like a PT song.
Very, very, very PT-ish. It's the vocals are my least favorite part of that song, though. They're very nasally, and I'm not a fan of Steven's nasal vocals. It's my Pin Drop's my least favorite song on there, man. My least favorite. What was I going to say? This one actually, the Holy Drinker, reminds me of the Grace with Drowning verses. And one thing I'll say about Steve is he's so prolific that he copies himself a lot.
Oh yeah,
a lot.
In a way, it's like a signature thing where it's just
it is
help
absolutely.
Right?
The Watchmaker, I love it. Very cool, complex. Probably the most complex song on there. It's just a pretty killer song. I love it. The lyrics are really cool on that one. Jimmy, I'm not as in love with Raven like you are, and I get why people are. I totally get it, but it's a beautiful song. Don't get me wrong, it's beautiful, but it kind of drags a bit. And I know that's probably sacrilege to most hardcore SW fans. It definitely has a beautiful, lilting, sad melody to it. You can't deny that, but I kind of think that should have been a 5-minute song as opposed to an almost 8-minute song. But that said, I do love it. I do know that's, if not his favorite song he's ever written, it's one of his favorite songs. I think it's his favorite song. He's made that statement before. Again, on the limited edition, which none of us own, it was disc 1 was the standard album. Disc 2 is demos of all songs, including the clock song, which was not used, an unused idea. Disc 3 is the DVD Blu-ray 5.1 versions, and disc 4 was the Blu-ray instrumental mixes with a longer version of Drive Home. I don't get the instrumental version thing. Dream Theater did it on their special edition for Black Clouds and Silver Linings, which was one of the, also back in that time when box sets were coming out. I just don't get just giving the musical versions. Like, you might listen to it once and that's it. You're probably never going to listen to it.
Haken does that too. Like I
don't get it.
I'll never listen to that.
No, it's a way to charge more money and put it in a box set. I don't.
Well, remember the Ocean put out the Pelagial, I think, or it was one regular CD, one instrumental CD. So
here's how I put this: if Grace was Steven Wilson's out there experimental prog album, this is the very accessible sister to it. You got a lot of long songs. It's much more accessible. It's much more melodically earwormish, and it's the weird thing about this is that when it came out, I really barely paid attention to it. I listened to it once or twice, was like, eh. However, re-listening to it today, I kind of forgot how good it is. This album's good. This album is as good as it was. Never really clicked with me when I bought it, but my opinion has changed a lot. It's a fucking killer album. Again, on this album, we've said it a million times. Guthrie Govan, guitar solos, Nick Bed's bass, Adam Holzman keys, Marco Miniman drums, Theo Travis alt, flutes and sax. Alan Parsons plays wah guitar on it, and Alan Parsons is credited as a co-producer, engineer. Engineer.
Yeah, he was an engineer.
There's a section in the Holy Drinker when it does that. What does that sound like? Well, I just did it. You won't remember. Opeth. It's a straight rip from early Opeth. This is much better than I recalled. Christ, I can't read my fucking writing. I recalled it being shitty or just kind of, no, I recall this being mediocre, but I was wrong. Holy Drinker has a definite rip of, okay, never mind. There was also, after this came out, so we're done with that one, right? Are we good, guys, on that one?
Sure.
Cool. After this came out, 10/21/13, there was a Drive Home EP. I don't think any of us own that, right?
I
I don't
not.
have it. Yeah. That has videos and live footage from the Raven tour, a live CD, and it's got alternate versions of, I can't read it, 2 tracks, it looks like. This isn't essential, and it's not something, if I saw it used somewhere, I'd grab it, but I'm never going to buy it. I'm not the live DVD guy much anymore. I watch them once and I never watch them again. It's kind of stupid. I like to be
I think
there.
at this point, I think I must have lost my like completist thing, where I was like, well, it didn't feel like I had enough.
I beat you to it. Is that what you're saying? I beat you to the completest thing? I think I did. All right, so we're moving on, and we're coming up to Hands Cannot Erase. This had, and do you have that one, Serge?
Yep. CD version.
Yeah, you have. Oh, that's just the CD version, 2 CD version. Okay. So on this, we've got this came out 2/27/15 on Kscope. Steve Wilson producing. It was recorded at East West in LA, Angel Recorders, and I can't read my writing. Some other studio I cannot read. Air Studios in London. This is about Joyce Carol Vincent, who's a woman that lived in London, I do believe, in an apartment, and she died and was dead for almost 3 years before anyone found her. And she did have family and friends, but apparently nobody looked in on her. By the way, on I forgot to mention on Raven, that went to number 85 on the Billboard 200 in the United States, which is pretty good for that time frame. This one ends up going to 39 in the Billboard charts. So Hand Cannot Erase. Yeah, we said about Joyce Carol Vincent. To me, it's a lot more commercial in many ways. On this album, we've got SW, Guthrie Govan, Nick Beggs, Holzman, Miniman, Dave Gregory on guitars, Chad Wackerman on drums, Nanette Tayeb, his first time working with Nanette Tayeb, who is a Israeli singer. I think she lives in the States now, though, if I'm not wrong. I think she's married to a U.S. guy or something. Theo Travis on flutes, and we've also got Leo Blank did a solo on one song, and Catherine Begley did the spoken word in some of the stuff. I want to show one thing before we move on to critiques. This one is inexplicably the only album that I own of his on Blu-ray. And I think I own it on Blu-ray because my kid had bought me a Blu-ray player, and I was like, oh, I got to buy Blu-rays now. Instead of buying CDs and DVDs and all that shit, I got to get Blu-rays next. So just to say real quick on the Blu-ray only edition, that one had alternate versions of album tracks and radio edits and different mixes that were not on the special limited edition that came out. The limited edition had a second disc of demos and demos of one song that was not on the album called Skeleton Key, and I believe it had this one did not, I think, come with a 5.1 mix. I could be wrong on that. I thought I wrote it down, and it does not look like I did. The standalone Blu-ray had separate stuff. No, it did have a Blu-ray on the limited edition, but the standalone Blu-ray that I just showed actually had other versions that was on the Blu-ray from the limited edition. So a lot to unpack there. Serge, you want to talk about Hand?
All right. Let me just pull this up real quick. All right. So starting off, it was kind of with First Regret. I'm like, I don't know. It kind of felt like a bit all over the place. Too long again. It's another one of those like, where is this going? So didn't start strong for me. Hand Cannot Erase is kind of like a radio song for me. It's not bad. Perfect Life I liked. Kind of has that spooky feel, but with the spoken word at first. Routine was where the first song of Nanette, which I do like her vocals, and I definitely think she lifts the songs she's on. This and the next album. I like the crescendo section there.
Serge, hold on. I gotta
Yeah.
take issue. Are you serious about Perfect Life? Dude,
What?
that song is fucking one of the most beautiful melodies he's ever written. We've got the perfect life. You don't think that's a gorgeous track?
Did I? Hi?
You don't think that's a gorgeous track?
What did I say bad about it? I said I liked it.
Oh, I thought you said you thought it was like the first couple tracks. It was just all over the place. Maybe I
I said
misheard
First
you.
Regret was.
Okay, I must have.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Perfect Life first was the third track, right? So
Oh, it's gorgeous, man. It's
no,
gorgeous.
that's Perfect Life is my favorite track on the album.
Oh, okay, all right, okay, all right. My bad.
Well, Perfect Life and maybe Home Invasion, because
Killer.
Home Invasion has some really cool parts, and there's that one like spacey part that sounds very Floydian to me.
Oh yeah.
I eat that shit up. So
yeah.
I love Home Invasion. Transients,
Agree.
pretty good but short. Ancestral, I think that's the only Theo track on this one, so he kind of scaled back the Theo Travis usage.
Big time.
Ninette sings again, so pretty good. This is kind of like like the pretty good album, but it got basically two really tracks I love, which is Perfect Life and Home Invasion, and none of the tracks I didn't like. Just First Regret I could have skipped, but everything else is pretty good.
And you have, which one do you have? You have the 2 CD version, or just one?
Yeah, there's two CDs.
Now, what's on the second CD? Is that the demo stuff, or instrumental versions?
So I guess the other stuff on here is Happy Returns and Ascended Huron. As far as what I didn't talk about that yet.
Right.
Which
Sorry.
I realized I did not listen to those on the re-listen, so I did not notes for those.
But what's on that second CD that you have? Or is that a 5.1 mix?
Yeah, that's the 5.1.
Oh, it is the 5.1. So, okay. And then on the 5.1, is there bonus stuff? Does it say? My guess is probably.
Actually, I think it's listed on the Wikipedia article. Yeah, so the it's a bunch of demos as the deluxe edition.
Okay, all right.
So yeah, it's just a bunch of demos.
Demos and the skeleton key thing. That's the one track that wasn't.
Skeleton was the one I guess I didn't make. No, that's it. Yeah, that's it.
All right, Jimmy, what you got on Hand Cannot Erase?
So I've actually got this on. I've got the CD special edition that I bought when it came out, but then when I went and actually got to see this live, I bought the vinyl, and by the time they were touring this, Marco was out of the band, and Craig Blundell had joined as the drummer, which I was severely bummed about because I really wanted to see Marco do this live. But Blundell was great. As he
pretty real quick, by the way, it's a pretty striking cover. I think the last two covers are very caught your eye.
Yeah, I'm glad that it's not his dumb face on this. But yeah, an interesting thing about so I had bought the special edition CD that has the DVD, I think that Serge has. But,
right.
I didn't even realize I had this until I opened it because I haven't tore into this vinyl in a while. But at the show, he had these stupid bags.
Oh yeah.
This is so fucking stupid. But I say
the height of self-love, right? Having a gift.
I mean, come on, man. But
shopping.
I don't know, but at the time I must have folded
You probably
it.
thought, "Oh my God, it's got Steve Wilson's name on. I gotta keep it."
Yeah, it's a Steven Wilson bag, and I was probably buzzed, from the night. So I saved the bag and I slipped it into the vinyl, and here it is.
Right.
And
That's funny.
fine. But that's always kind of fun when you open up
Discover
something you haven't
stuff.
done in a while, and it's like, I forgot about that. But for me, I would definitely say that this is absolutely my favorite solo record. And I would pretty much say this is a 10 out of 10 from start to finish. Everything about this record is perfection. It's really kind of like his last statement in terms of like, the more prog kind of stuff that he was doing. This is the ultimate lineup in terms of his solo records, with
Recording wise.
Yeah, I mean, there's some amazing Guthrie moments on here, amazing Berko moments. It's kind of it's just for me, like thematically in terms of like the story, what it's about is very, very, very disturbing, but it's a very bright and kind of, it kind of oftentimes like I was talking about with, like the Grace album with the artwork not really fitting the music for me. In some ways, like the music doesn't really fit with the concept,
the theme. Yeah,
because like most of this is pretty bright and happy kind of stuff. Not happy.
I realized I have a weird dissociation or misassociation where I keep associating this cover with To the Bone. I don't know why.
Wait, which one?
With
the
To the
next
Bone?
one.
Yeah.
No, say that again. You keep associating what?
I keep associating.
The cover with To the Bone.
This cover with To the Bone.
Yeah, that's a great point. I never thought about that, but that works much better. You're right.
Yeah,
probably would, because like the subject matter here is it's a very disturbing story, and I don't want to say disturbing. It's just kind of
sad.
Yeah, it's sad. But it fits with in terms of the lyrical content, it fits with his kind of thing. In terms of making something dark but beautiful. But the music here is again from start to finish for me is pretty perfect. I really can't find anything that I don't like about this. I mean, it just has my favorite songs in terms of his solo stuff. Bringing on Nanette. I like Nanette. I think she's a fantastic vocalist. She does this thing that really bothers the hell out of me though, where she kind of like crackles her voice and it kind of like feels forced.
You mean the raspy part?
Yeah, that like kind of rasp thing that she does. Like she'll kind of like accentuate the word with like this sort of rasp, and I don't know. It just like it's
an Israeli thing, and I'll tell you why.
Really?
And I don't want to sound that almost sounded racist, or I don't want it to be that way. But here again, have you ever listened to Blackfield with
I'm not
Aviv
really
Geffen?
Stuff,
if you listen to Aviv Geffen, he does the same sort of enunciations. I think it's how they pronounce like true Israeli, someone that's from Israel.
Yeah.
Well, hang on. Let me just make the point real quick, and then I'll. I noticed with both Aviv and her, they have this sort of way of pronouncing words and using vocalizations in their voice that kind of sound, for us as Westerners, kind of sounds a little bit like off initially. And I think they're both cigarette smokers. At least Aviv is big time cigarette smoker. And I think I saw her smoking in a video. And that rasp kind of comes obviously from smoking. Go ahead, Serge, your point.
No, I was going to say, yeah, I mean, I think there's some truth to that. I mean, my sister lived in Israel for a long time. And been there a couple of times. It's also between just like the way Hebrew is spoken.
Yes.
There's
a lot of in Hebrews. There's a lot of yuch and lach. There's a lot of that sort of vibe to things, and
that makes sense.
I don't
really thought about it that way.
Yeah, I think it's just that because like Aviv's vocals on the first two Blackfield albums, I like, but man. I struggle with it a lot because sometimes he sounds like a bleeding goat, like a and it drove me fucking insane by the third album. I'm like, I'm out. I'm done. I really like Nanette's vocals. I think she's got an amazing voice.
She's fantastic, no doubt. I mean, I guess...
And she adds a lot of dynamics to the tracks she sings on. So.
However, there's one problem. she makes Steven's vocals sound bad.
Yeah, I mean, when you have,
Yes, she does.
especially next to each other. Yeah, I did. You know, that's interesting. And I'm glad you. Thank you guys for clarifying that for me because I never really thought about it. Well, I don't want to say thought about it that way, but never heard. You know, I knew she was Israeli, but I didn't think that maybe that was actually because it always kind of felt sort of forced to me. Like I thought, like
That's
she
a
was
good way
trying
to
like,
look at it.
like I thought like she was trying to like because she's a fantastic vocalist, no doubt. But like it just felt to me like she was like trying to make it like a little bit more like dramatic in a way like that
Well-
didn't. Where I was like, why don't you just sing? You sound fantastic. You're wonderful. Don't do that. But maybe it's just a natural thing. And so,
But like that part where she's like, "So pariah, not speaking again," and then she does that thing where she goes, "Take care." I can't get near that note, but da 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 da,
Yeah.
da 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 da. It's like, man, that fucking knocks me out in my fucking boots. It sounds so
great
good.
song. And
Yeah.
and she's fantastic. I mean, like maybe it probably bothered me the most in the cover of "Don't Hate Me," but which we'll get
Yeah.
to. But,
Yeah,
you know, like digressing, you know, just trying to get through this record. I just feel like there's a flow to this thing that just, man, it just like the whole thing just develops perfectly. You know, like he really uses all the musicians to his disposal at the peak on this record. And so many good solos and some of the best melodies, you know, like, I mean, when it comes to Steven Wilson, I look for really, really strong melodic, you know,
for sure.
he really pulls it off here. You know, just even the title track. I mean, it's just a perfect song. The Perfect Life, you know, I mean, like just the soundscapes and the way that things sound there. You know, Ancestral is probably the darkest track on here that really actually is fitting of the concept of the lyrical concept of the story here. But you know, then you come with Happy Returns, one of my favorite songs, and just puts a smile on my face. Just perfect. Man, I have nothing bad to say about this. I mean, for me, again, this is my favorite of his solo work, and 10 out of 10.
I see why.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, Jimmy, you stepped away. I don't know if you heard me, if you had the volume on, but like when the third album came out, the last album, I was kind of going through a hurt phase about how I was kind of not like acknowledged at the Grace show and not really paying any attention to. So I kind of wrote that to a degree in a weird way. I now looking back, I think I kind of wrote that album off and wrote off Wilson to a point as like, well, I don't really want to give a shit about his stuff. But when I got a load of this, and I don't remember whether it was a while, I did not get this when it first came out. I got it maybe a couple months later, or I don't know, maybe I probably talked to Serge and said, hey, what do you think of the album? He's like, it's pretty good. And I'm like, fuck that guy or whatever. I probably was in that zone. Yeah. But then I went and listened, and I'm like, it's pretty fucking good.
Well, and it also feels like at this point, you know, like, not to cut you off, Jeff, but like, I mean, like,
no,
he was always this way, but it feels like to me, like at this point, like where he really kind of got sort of full of himself. You know,
well,
like,
yes.
Like
the last album was where that started, I think. Yeah.
You think
for the solo career, but look, you know, and I don't care if Steve ever sees this. It is what it is. He can reach out and we can talk. But I doubt he'll see it. But you know, knowing the guy like I did for many years, for 10 years, I never really got the full of himself stuff until around Fear of a Blank Planet. That's when I started. But keep in mind, that's when the band exploded into much bigger venues.
That's factor of him getting bigger, and
and the whole entourage became bigger, and there were more people at him, and there were more demands of him. And so when I say full of himself, I want to be clear about this. I'm not saying that Steve Wilson is some, you know, fucking diva David Lee Roth guy.
No,
okay,
no.
He's never been that. Okay, he's never been so you know, a pure fucking asshole. Never. I've seen and witnessed and felt the sting of a couple of moments where I felt like, okay, I'm really not important at all. Like there's no, and I gotta accept that, okay? Because I had moments, though, a lot of moments in the band, and Serge as well too, because we were close, where we were made to feel we were definitely part of everything bigger. We were a bigger part of everything. But as the machine got bigger, we got there was more separation put between us and the whole situation. As I said, I've talked to Richard twice on the current tour. Serge got to spend a good 15, 20 minutes with him or whatever, however long you were there. Serge, half hour. He upgraded Serge in my tickets. You know, I'm so angry. I'm so angry. I just couldn't push myself to do it, but it is what it is to go. But the reality of it is that Steve's an artist. He's been lauded a lot by the critical press, by the prog press, by the music press, by the Rolling Stones. That shit gets to your head. Any normal human being, that's gonna get to their head a little bit. I don't care who you are. Now, the struggle is, can you maintain who you are as a core person? For example, I'm a guy who's very inclusive and very, very friendly to the point of a fault at sometimes. But I'm also a guy, you said sorry for cutting you off. It's like I've never done that. I've never cut anyone off. Right, Serge? I've never cut you off, right? It's ADHD, by the way, guys. I realize I have it bad as an older man. And the reality is that the bigger he got as a focal point of PT, everyone was always after, what's Steven think? What's Steven think? Richard and Gavin was always doing his own orbit. You know, he had his own friends and never really hung out with all of us and the nerds and stuff like that. And Richard had was always kind of probably the cool one. Eventually, he became more the coolest one to talk to and hang out with. Colin was always kind of quiet and sort of to himself, and John Wesley was always the ambassador of fun and goodness. And Steve did have to start, maybe out of self-preservation, he had to start dialing back some of that contact. It's like the Roger Waters thing.
Oh, for sure. I think he had to, right? Like,
yeah, that's what I said.
Which is why I didn't care. I'm like, whatever. You know,
I did more than you, clearly. It bothered me more than it did you. You were always very like, dude, don't let it bother you. And I'm like, I take things personally much more than you. So, but I get it. Looking back in retrospect and hindsight, I get it. He had to kind of remove himself. But you bring up the solo thing and the fool of himself. The reality of it is, it's his solo career, and he's paying everybody's salary in the band, and he is kind of the marquee focus. Now, I'm going to bring up the Marco Miniman Guthrie thing. Asterisk. I know that most of this is true, but I don't know the full dynamics of it. So I'm only going to go by what I know off of posts on Marco Miniman's Facebook that I read personally and saw that were from Marco, that he has dialed back a little bit since then. This album went gold, I believe, and they got plaques. And what happened is at the end of the touring cycle for the prior album, for Ghost Raven, the plans for this were set in place. The machinations were set in place. And Steve assumed that Marco and Guthrie were on board. And Marco and Guthrie had major tours with the Aristocrats band. Their instrumental band with Brian Bellar, who's in Joe Satriani, a bunch of other stuff. They had this stuff planned. Great bass player, by the way. They had stuff planned, and they went to Steven and said, that's not going to work for us. We've got these plans to do all this stuff. We're recording this album. The story, I understand it, and I'm only doing this from Marco's point of view, so I never got Steve's point of view, is that Steve got kind of a red ass and got pretty pissed off and did not send them their gold records, and they never found out about it until somebody mentioned it to them on tour. And Marco went on his Facebook page and kind of went nuclear. He really did. I saw the post, and they're out there. If you look for them, somebody screen captured them. You'll find them on a Reddit thread somewhere. I guarantee it. Which you'll find anything that you want to never know about life out on a Reddit thread somewhere. Marco was pissed. Guthrie never said anything publicly. Marco was pissed. And he pretty much said, Steve Wilson's an asshole. I'll never fucking play with that guy again. I'll never work with him again. That's why they weren't on the tour for this album. They had basically left, and I don't know that Steve's ever really addressed it publicly that I'm aware of. I don't think he has. I think he figured it was better to let Sleeping Dogs lie. They did get their gold albums. But the reality was, even from that, it was like, well, Steve Wilson's a jerk-off, man. This guy is so full of himself. But the facts are that he's the guy that's writing all the music. He's the guy that's paying all the bills on the road, paying the salaries. The accolades for the live band and the studio recordings are going to go to these musicians, but the real accolades are going to always be heaped on Wilson. Do I think that he could sometimes be a little more judicious about things that he said in public? Like the whole comment about, oh, I'm playing with guys now that are way better than the guys in Porcupine Tree. He said that. That shit's out there. You can find it. It's easy to find. Sometimes Steve, and he's admitted it, puts his foot in his own mouth at times. Remember the comments about Dream Theater?
Dream
Who
Theater.
took them out on tour and gave them a platform to open for them in big venues, and Steve shit all over. They didn't shit all over. It was, that wanky shit's not for me, and I don't enjoy it. Well, they put out a song, I believe, on Systematic Chaos called Redemption, and they had people call about or give them vocal snippets about things they regretted. And Steve did like a regret that he said, sometimes I say things I shouldn't, I put my foot in my mouth. That's out there too. So I do think that sometimes Steve doesn't think before he shoots. I think he's better now. I think he's a lot better now generally. But that, you're right, around that time period, he was feeling his oats a little bit, kind of like, he's the rock star guy and the pop star guy and the mega songwriter that's winning all the awards at Prague Magazine and Rolling Stone and up for Grammys and all that stuff. I mean, let's be honest, we're all human, man. We start getting accolades for our work. Don't we always want to go,
Yeah, and I kind of want to, like, in a way, like, I said, for me, like, it felt like he was starting to get full of, and I mean that, like, in sort of like the nicest way, I guess, like, because
Sure.
I don't mean to, like, talk bad about, because I mean, I love Steven. I guess maybe I always felt like previous to this, anytime I saw him like in an interview, I always felt like he was the most genuine artist, like I always felt like he was speaking from the heart, and I still think he does this day. I guess like I just started to feel like, and it wasn't even so much like what he would say in press. It kind of almost comes out in the music in some ways. Like from here going forward, is there's a sort of a full of yourself kind of feeling to like the music in some ways too, so I guess like when I say that, I mean that in the nicest way, because I still respect him more than most artists, it's just like it, but and I totally appreciate what you just said, that is a fact, when you get accolades. I mean, when you're an amazing artist like Steven Wilson, I mean, you can't help but probably be full of yourself a little bit, because you're a fucking amazing songwriter, So,
well, that you're good at what you do is really what it comes down. And the bottom line is, if you're LeBron James, you're good at what you do. If you're Tom Brady, guys like Tom Brady, he comes off like an arrogant prick sometimes, but he's probably the greatest fucking quarterback that's ever played the position.
right.
There's guys like Belichick, who's one of the greatest coaches in history, and he comes off like a fucking jackass. Just because he is. That's my opinion only. But here's the thing with Steve. Steve's not bashful about saying what he thinks or feels, and I don't have a problem with that as long as he's not hurting someone directly. Okay. And I don't think he does that. So, if Steve sees this and thinks I'm shitting on him, I'm not at all. I respect Steven immensely, man. I mean, I was a first class, card carrying, front of the class fanboy at one point in time. Hardcore. Serge knows it. He saw it. He was there. He witnessed it. He was embarrassed for me too, I'm sure. But I never was like on my knees for this guy. It never got to that point. But I respect him immensely. And there's things that he does as a musician, as an engineer, as a mixer, as a recording artist that most will never achieve. They'll never get there. They'll never get there. So, that's to talk about Steven personally. Let me jump into the album quick, so we got a couple more to go. First Regret. Does somebody have a YouTube session on? I'm hearing bad rebound. Hello?
Not me.
How about now?
How about now?
Okay. No, it's not now. No, I am getting a little bit. Shit. All right. Might be on my end. So, First Regret, I'm like you, Serge. It kind of seems pointless as an opener. I don't know. I didn't get that. And I got to be honest with you. I don't like 3 Years Older very much. I'm not sure why. This is the kind of stuff that Steve Wilson writes in his sleep. That one didn't do much for me. Hand Cannot Erase. Bouncy, poppy track. I love it. That's a great song. I'm like Steve. I love pure pop, man. Good pure pop. I love it. Perfect Life. One of Steven's greatest memorable earworm hooks ever. It's so beautiful. Just we've got the perfect life. Oh, so good. I love that song. It's so gorgeous. It's like gets in your head and you just can't not love it. Routine. What another beautiful track, man. Wait a minute. Did I miss Pariah? Where's Pariah?
That's the next record.
Oh, that's the next record. Fuck. All right, never mind. My bad. And I was singing that. Why didn't you guys correct me? I goofed up. Yeah, Routine's beautiful. Nanette adds so much to the song, and like you said, Serge, it kind of shows the big weakness in the catalog, in the canon of Wilson, is his voice, in certain aspects. And I'm going to reference that when I do a tie-in for the whole album. Not all of his voice is bad, and I'll mention that in a minute. Home Invasion, really cool track, kind of heavy. Again, no vocal processing on his voice in this one. Regret Number 9. I love that intro ARP synth. It's either an ARP synth or it's a Moog. I love that synth. It's so fucking 70s and sounding and early 80s sounding. So cool. Transients, little instrumental interlude. Ancestral. I love Ancestral, but the one part of it I don't like is the gratuitous metal sections. There's something about the metal sections that remind me a lot of the metal section in Arriving Somewhere. You know, you got this super cool proggy flowing track in Arriving Somewhere, and that gets into the Meshuggah. I like that. Don't get me wrong. I like it. Ancestral does the same thing with the heavy metal sections. It's the only thing I don't like about it because the rest of the track is fucking brilliant. And Guthrie's solo, unreal. Unfucking real. Hold on. I'm going to close my other windows. I got a bad feeling I'm getting. How about now? It was me. I had YouTube open. It was picking up something.
Oh.
Happy Returns. Beautiful closer. Great tune. Love it. And then Ascendance is just this ambient outro choral thing that's really, really pretty too. So only the first 2 tracks. If I could get rid of those 2, I probably wouldn't want them on the album. So that's why I say it's probably a 9.5 for me, but I do like it. Disc 2 has demos and all demos and then of the tracks, and then demos of the King, what's it called? Key of Skeleton, which was an unused track. The Blu-ray has alt versions of the album tracks, radio edits, different mixes. And there is, of course, a deluxe version with all the swag and the craziness, and I just didn't buy into it. By that time, you know, we're talking, what year are we talking here? 15. I had a lot of my life was starting to shift pretty badly at that point. I was starting to not feel well around that time, beginning of that era. And there was a lot going on, and I also left the job that I had to leave a job that I was making a lot of money at, and it really hurt my buying power. Really dig this album when it came out. I saw him on the tour in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania here. I was bummed as fuck that Marco and Guthrie were not there. It was Dave Kilmister was on guitars, Craig Blundell on drums. Craig is a fucking fantastic player, and Dave Kilmister plays with One Roger Waters, so he must not be too bad. Pretty killer guitar player, not Guthrie Govan though. No offense to Dave Kilmister. The only thing I was going to say was there are a few moments SW's vocals on here are a little nasally for me, and I don't like that nasal vocal. I tend to like his more haunting Englishy sounding vocals, the Englishy melancholy voice.
Yep.
I like to call it. Otherwise, another great album with a good bit of pop mixed in with the heavy prog rock and the alt rock. We should start using the alt rock term here because there's a lot of alt rock in this as well.
Yeah.
Killer individual performances, especially Guthrie. All right, so we ready for 4.5?
Sure.
Oh, I should mention real quick, 9/11, 2015, Transients comes out. They count it as an album. I think it's a comp.
It's
It's
a compilation.
Yeah, it's a compilation of 13 songs from 03 to 15. Of course, limited edition LPs because it's Steve Wilson. Includes a 2015 re-recorded version of Lazarus, which I think I've heard, but I didn't go listen to it. I'm not really that interested in that.
I didn't bother with that one.
4.5 EP comes out January 22nd, 16. Collects songs from multiple sessions not on Hand Cannot Erase or Raven. Came out on K-Scope, SW Producing. Went to 114 on Billboard. Who's got it? Anybody? All right. Nice. Jimmy, you said you got it? CD? Or you got the album? Oh, you got the album. Okay. Nice.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like Serge's CD. It's like a die cut case, which is pretty cool. I mean, I
did like that idea. That's kind of fun.
Yeah, it looks cool with the 4.5, and I love the cover art too. It's really pretty. Just colorful.
Sorry, I kicked myself out. I hit the wrong exit button.
It's really just a couple girls sitting on a bench, but it's really pretty though. I mean, just the colors and just an interesting photograph.
Very much a Lasse Hoyle or Carl Glover look.
Yep.
All right. Why don't you tell me about it, Jimmy?
I mean, it's just a nice, like I appreciate when he puts out like the bonus tracks on an EP that we can buy without having to spend $100 on the deluxe version. But this is our intro to Craig Blundell. And when I saw the tour for this, they did My Book of Regrets, which it sounds like something right off of Hand Cannot Erase. Good track, man. Just kind of a little bit all over the place. You're the Plague. That one just kind of passes by. Happiness 3 is a really fun, just happy sounding track. Who's on this? Oh, Guthrie's on that. Marco's on that. I mean, that was probably recorded for the Hand Cannot Erase. So actually, I think it was that one, and then My Book of Regrets was like kind of the track that was kind of left over. I mean, like I also like Vermilion Core a lot. That's just a cool, interesting kind of like industrialized kind of song, kind of heavy. He always does that live too. The last couple times I saw him, and then it ends with "Don't Hate Me" with Nanette, which is I already talked about, but I kind of was a little, annoyed with her the way she does her vocals. But maybe I'm gonna go back and listen with a different year now that I've heard you guys were talking about her Israeli stylings. But man, it's just a good collection of a few leftover tracks, and I mean, can't really say anything bad about it. It's good.
I do agree with you though that her vocalization on "Don't Hate Me" I don't think it helps the track much. I think that song on "Stupid Dream" is one of the best songs they did. And I don't like it as much, personally.
Yeah.
Serge.
All right. So my notes. My Book of Regrets. I mean, it's another one of those tracks where there's just a lot of different sections. I like the prettier vocal section. So some were good, some were okay, but pretty good overall. Year of a Plague is kind of like a pastiche for me. Happiness 3, I just can't get into at all. I don't know. It's like it's too bright, and there's nothing for me to pick out as something that interests me. So I don't know. Sunday Rain Sets In is pretty enjoyable.
That's a very No Manish track to me.
Yeah, for sure. Vermilion Core, I liked. I really dug that kind of like space rock section in the second half.
Yeah.
And then
very PT-ish. Very PT-ish to me.
PT-ish or even like I forget like the random like space rock bands that'd be like on those compilations that have like Space Days.
It's Hawkwind. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that type of thing. Although like I'm more thinking of like bands that came after that. Yeah, don't hate me. I don't know. I don't really didn't really see need for
Right.
this version.
Yeah.
It's like, well, it's okay, but
Doesn't add anything.
it doesn't add anything. So
All right, real quick on me. Book of Regrets, cool, very SW's track, has PT vibes to it. All these songs have PT vibes on this one, I feel, kind of. The Year of Plague instrumental, cool. PT's track, Happiness 3, very SW sounding, like, what the hell? Oh, I like the pre-chorus on that. Sunday Rain sits in. Again, that's probably the most distinctive song because it sounds very No Man-ish. A lot more No Man-ish than anything he's done in quite a while that wasn't No Man. Vermilion Core, instrumental. That's a heavy track. I think it's probably the heaviest track on the whole album. And you did, I don't know if it was, I think it was Jimmy said, My Book of Regrets. That one, you're right. It does have, it seems like there's a lot of different things stitched together on that one. The different, like, different parts of Hand Cannot Erase or the prior album. Don't Hate Me. Yeah, it doesn't do much for me. It's just I love the version on Stupid Dream. It's so cool with just probably right up there with Stop Swimming, which I think is fucking brilliant on that album. And well, Stupid Dream is pretty brilliant all the way through. But the only thing I would say on here, very worth picking up sounds better to my ears than the next two albums. This, honestly, I'd rather listen to this than the next two albums put together. SW's throwaway tracks tend to be as good or better than a lot of the album tracks. We talked about that now a number of times. Examples: Disappear, which was from the Lightbulb Sun sessions. One of their greatest tracks. It should have been on an album. Drown With Me. Yes, it was eventually put on, and Steve Wilson has said I should have put that on the album. I mean, Drown With Me is one of the fucking most amazing songs he's ever written. It's so goddamn good. Chloroform from those sessions. Half-Light from the Deadwing sessions. Holy fuck, what a song that is.
Yeah, what a song.
I mean, that song just heartbreaking. See, you say, and this isn't, I'm not picking on, like, this is just you and I and how we hear things differently. You say Raven is just maybe one of his greatest songs ever written. I think Half-Light might be one of his greatest songs ever written.
I would agree.
It's in that same vein, but it's so goddamn beautiful, and it didn't make the Deadwing album. So-Called Friend, another killer song from that session, didn't make the album. What Happens Now from the Fear of a Blank Planet sessions that didn't make the album. You know,
Buying New Soul.
Buying New Soul, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, that one's great.
Oh, Christ, are you kidding me? What else is on recordings that should have been? Well, for example, the 15-minute version of Even Less should have been on Stupid Dream, but I know why he cut that down. What's the other killer? What are a couple songs on Access Denied? Access Denied. I know a lot of people hate that song. I love that song. It's so weird and crazy and, cool. And Disappear should have been on the Lightbulb Sunset. So, we've named a lot of different tracks. The only thing I can think of is, did Sky have a lot of excess tracks? I don't think it did it?
well, it was basically Stars Die.
Stars Die. Stars Die. That's the song of all songs that should have been on an album. One of his most beautiful songs ever. There you go. That's another one that belongs up there with Raven. Stars Die is so fucking beautiful. So real quick, we talked about Dave Kilmister. You know what? I'm not going to get into all that. That's enough on that. So, yeah, man, well worth owning. I would say definitely something that if you're digging into Steve Wilson, maybe not your first solo thing to grab from him, but definitely something you should know. So, all right, we're on to the bone. And, it blows my mind, but this is his high, to my knowledge, this is his highest charting album to date. I'm going to show, Jimmy's got the album there. I'm going to show and this goes out to Doug. Doug ordered this, the limited edition book version. As you can see, it's got a big nick in it there. See it?
Yeah.
So they replaced it with another one, and he sent this to me free of charge. Cost him like $20 to ship too, back during the pandemic. And it's all fucked up on the inside. You see how the
Oh,
spine's all ripped apart, but it has the two CDs, the DVD, and then it's got the video DVD, and then it's got the Blu-ray. And it's also got what's interesting about this one that I don't think maybe it was on the last one, but I know it is on this one. It's got this. It's got the 7-inch of a song called Antisocial that is not on the album or on the Blu-ray. So it's kind of cool. I think it's Antisocial. Yeah, it's a one-sided disc. It doesn't have anything on the other one. So I got to be honest with you, I forgot about that song Antisocial, so I don't know how that goes. But everything else on here I've listened to. I'm going to get back to you guys one moment here. I'm doing this one-handed. Oh, shit. Don't fall down there. No, don't. All right, sorry about that. And we'll come back to here. Real quick on To The Bone. Came out August 18th, 17 on Caroline International, which is a huge label. Got a lot of radio record label push. It is produced by Steve Wilson and Paul Stacey, who worked with the Black Crowes as a producer, guitar player, played with a band I can't remember the name of. Per Wilson, inspired by progressive pop albums of his youth from Talk Talk, Kate Bush, Tears for Fears, Peter Gabriel, which you can hear some of that in the album. Also, I forgot to mention on this one, it's got Steve Wilson, Nanette Tayeb, Paul Stacey, Dave Kohler, Nick Beggs, Dave Kilmister on guitar, Adam Holzman on keys, Craig Blundell on drums, Jeremy Stacey, which is Paul's son, I believe, on drums, Mark Feltman on the harmonica. This went to number 58 in the Billboard Top 200 and number 3 in the UK. Also, Andy Partridge of XTC writes lyrics on track 1, and you definitely can hear the XTC in that first track. I'll get to that in a minute. So, who wants to go first? Jimmy?
Yeah, sure. Part of me like absolutely despises this cover art, but part of me kind of likes it too. I'd be curious to hear what Serge thinks about this, being a photographer, because it's, what I find interesting about this image is just the colors. The colors really are cool.
Yes.
You got the really solid blues on one side of his face, but then you got sort of the red in his hair, coming from the background. So I think that's cool, but at the same time, I can't stand it. So it's like, it's a love kind of thing, because he looks like ridiculous, especially there. I fucking hate that. Like the first song I heard, preceding the release of the record was Permeating, I think, was the first one I heard.
You heard that over Pariah? Because Pariah was the single that was...
Yeah, maybe I heard Pariah first, which I liked, and then Permeating, which was kind of like, leading towards feeling like, okay, here's a change in direction on the, in terms of, the style, what he's going to do. And thinking, to myself that I probably wasn't going to, this, wasn't really going to be for me. Being that I'm not really a big, kind of pop fan or whatever.
Right.
Not that this is really pop music, but, Permeating was kind of a pop song. And I've actually grown to like that song a lot.
I love that song.
But honestly, I really love this record, man. I mean, as soon as I went to the record store and bought this, the vinyl the day of, because it's Steven Wilson, I have to have everything he's got. Man, I fucking really dig this record. I mean, this, a couple songs I don't really like. I mean, I feel like cohesively in terms of like all the songs, I feel like, it all fits together. Even though some songs are like a little more poppy than others, but I love To The Bone. I love Nowhere Now. I think that's a really great song, even though it kind of,
very radio friendly.
Me and my wife make fun of that song a lot, Nowhere Now, because the lyrics just sound like, Stephen Wilson fluttering along amongst the clouds and the birds, and
it's very new agey Steve Wilson.
And his in his blissful idiocy, kind of in a way, but it's a great song, it really is. And Pariah is great, and that really shines on that song. The Same Asylum as Before. I mean, to me, that could have been a Porcupine Tree song.
Absolutely, the most Porcupine Tree song on the album.
lot of friends I know that like friends that I have that are into, Steven Wilson didn't like, the sort of falsetto that he uses on there. Doesn't really bother me as much as it maybe it should.
He overuses it on that
He
album.
overuses
That's
it,
the big
yeah,
thing for me.
but it's a great song, and that chorus is wonderful. I mean, it just sounds bright and just, uplifting, and oftentimes like you look at Steven Wilson, being a lot of his stuff's pretty downtrodden and dark. I mean, there's a lot of really bright, happy sounding stuff on here. I would say that Refuge is probably my favorite song on here. I love that song. God, it's so good. I just love the way that he comes into it, the melody. This is a melodic record, and that's why it really, speaks to me in that sense. When we get to the second side, People Eat Darkness, it's a good song. I really like Blundell's drum performance on this. I think he really shows his worth, especially on People Who Eat Darkness. I think the drumming is really cool. Song of I, that's kind of, obviously hinting towards what's to come. Detonation's pretty cool. Good solos on there. But the last track, Song of Unborn, that's where it really like kind of comes together. With that little boy like choir kind of thing. Just it's so beautiful, just wonderful. Yeah, man. I mean, I kind of was thinking I wasn't gonna like this, and ended up loving it. Really loving it. For the most part, besides maybe Song of I and People Eat Darkness is okay. Other than that, man, everything on here is solid, man. Solid songwriting, solid melodies, man. He really this is his most melodic statement for me.
Wow. Overhand cannot really?
Just in terms of like catchiness and just straight up.
Well, it's a little bit more straightforward to the pop sensibility.
It's like very straightforward, but it just sounds so like seamless and easy, like for him to just write a very good melodic tune, and like that. While it's easy for him, man, it's really not easy to do.
No, it's not.
And he just, for here, he just does it effortlessly. So yeah, man, I really dig this one. It's great.
I got some bad news for you there, Jimmy. What you just said there, you just flew in the face of what you said earlier, which was, I'm not really into this pop stuff. If you like this album, you're into pop stuff.
Yeah. But I mean, like, I'm not traditionally into pop stuff.
I got you.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not as glowing about this album as you. I'm curious to see what Serge says.
Again, I just have the regular CD version for this.
Lame.
Well, again, at this point,
I'm kidding.
I'm just not enough into it to get the crazy editions. This, by the way, is if you replace the red with purple and move the lights. So right now you got the blue light kind of almost head on, and the red is edge lighting behind. If you just switch them a little bit, you get what. And again, replace red with purple, you get what's called bisexual lighting.
Oh.
You may have seen that. That's like that blue and pink kind of lighting you see sometimes in like stylized photos. So
maybe that's why Steve chose not to do that. He had enough questions about his sexuality for a long time.
But do you think that looks like like aesthetically pleasing in terms of like a photography?
I mean, it can look cool. I've done it myself. I don't really. I don't know. I don't know if they're trying to like.
Who did it? Do we know who did it?
What the photo?
The cover, yeah.
Lassie still worked on this. I don't know if Lassie.
Are you sure that was Lassie? Because I'm not so sure it was. I'm curious to look.
I know he worked on this album. So
okay, let me see. I'll see if I can find it while you're talking about it.
I mean,
because that's the only reason that I can dig the cover art. Serge is like I think the colors like look aesthetically pleasing. I hate that he just put.
I guess it's like okay, Steven, topless, whatever, like exposed, right? So we're trying to like show a little, like, I guess, vulnerability, maybe. I don't know.
Right.
Again, I generally don't like the whole like upfront cover, of the artist.
Yeah, it's Lassie, by the way. Yep.
Yeah. So, and again, there's a bit of, kind of going forward, but this is a little much, right? In terms of a theme of like,
yeah, it's always focused on
way
him.
too much. Yeah.
I don't know. So anyways,
But again, it is the Steve Wilson show, so
I like more abstract or conceptual stuff. So anyway,
right.
so I went to re-listen to the album thinking like, from what I remember, I didn't really like it, right? And then I listened to it, I'm like, God damn it! Even if songs that I'm not necessarily into too much, it's hard to deny he writes like good music, and like I don't know, it's almost annoying and frustrating. Um,
Right, because
but
you don't want to like it, but you do. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, so in terms of favorites, I do love Pariah. Again, Lynette is really cool on that.
Amazing.
Same style as before, Refuge. Um, Detonation was the other one I kind of liked. Son of Unborn is really, again, it's another one of those Steven end of album
Bangers.
tracks that like very emotional.
Hmm.
So I think I connected with that. Well, maybe now that I'm a parent, I think I connected.
Oh,
with
for
it more.
sure.
So,
Yeah, the choir, the boy choir is so good.
yeah. People Who Eat Darkness was the one track I kind of like. I could really like fast forward on this one. What's funny is I remember from, one of the memories I had, like the two songs I remembered the most was Pry and Permeating. And I remember liking Pry, and I remember hating Permeating.
And you like it now. Don't lie.
Well, I remember like it being like extremely annoyed by it. I'm like, oh my god! Like, and I went to see him at that tour. I'm like, we're really gonna have to play this song. Of course they did, right?
Of course.
And I listened to it now. I'm like, god damn, it's stupidly catchy though.
It
You
is.
know, it's just even I don't know. It's like I said,
It makes you want to shake your booty on the dance floor.
it's frustrating sometimes.
Hold on to that feeling, baby. And you just can't get it out of your fucking head. You're like, why?
I don't know. So I think overall, like again, I mean, progressive pop or whatever. I mean, I think it succeeds pretty well. I mean, yeah, there's definitely a couple of tracks, that I'm not a fan of. But I can find enough to like on this album to listen to it. So I think it came out better than I had remembered it.
So this is the one you warned me. You said you told me you precursored it by saying, I think it's better than I thought it was going to be. Or you didn't actually say, you just said some of the stuff that I thought I didn't like, I liked more than I thought.
Yeah, I think I just, on re-listens, I think changed what I had thought, and of course I'm a different person now, so who knows?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So I got this from Doug, and I listened to it honestly. I swear to God, I'm not lying when I say this. 2 times. That's it. And I put it aside, and I'm like, I'll barely ever listen to this. There's one specific reason why I kind of almost hated this album. We'll get to it in a second. Okay, To the Bone. I saw him on this tour. I can't remember what songs he did. A handful of them. I honestly don't remember. Oh, no, wait. I'm sorry. Yeah, I saw him on this tour in Philly. And, what really was amazing was when I saw him on the Hand Cannot Erase tour, he was playing to maybe a house of about, I want to say maybe 700 people. And I went to this show, second show I was ever at the Fillmore in Philly, a new venue. And it was almost full. And that holds like 2,500 people or close to 3,000. I was like, what the fuck? And I almost didn't go, but I'm glad I did go. But it was because it was a great show. But To the Bone, I don't know. I don't really like it. It has a very XTC moderner or later XTC feel, and I love XTC. One of my favorite bands ever. This song is not on an XTC pop song level. I'm sorry, it's just not. But you can hear the Andy Partridge isms in the vocal lines, and you can definitely hear it. Nowhere Now. I'm not on it like you, Jimmy. It's pop. It's okay. It's not terrible, but and certainly if I listen to it over and over again, I might gravitate towards it more. But it's very here among the clouds. It's good, but I don't know. It sounds too happy, man. I don't fucking like happy Steve Wilson mostly, but that's cool. I'm
It
glad.
does feel strange, right?
It's weird. It's just weird.
It is
Anyway,
weird.
Pariah, fucking amazing song. Just amazing the way it builds at the end when she's doing that and you're just like, holy fuck! It gives you fucking, goosebumps. I mean, it's just amazing. Same Asylum, probably the most PT-ish track on the album, which means I like it. And Serge, what song does Steven rip off his own riffs from for that song? Same Asylum as before.
Man,
I'll give you a little hint. The chord progression is exactly lifted from Prodigal. Prodigal from In Absentia.
Well,
It's
see,
almost
I
exact.
think you pick up on that stuff way more than me.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, as a guitarist, I do hear that shit. It's just hold on.
I can
guys.
see it though. Yeah. I mean,
But it's definitely from Prodigal. The part where he goes dun 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 dun, dun, it's got the real Floydian chords. That's the same chord progression, basically. Refuge. God damn, that song's fucking good, man. Holy shit, that song's amazing. Great tune, solid guitar solos, astral epic ending. Permeating, really cool ABBA-esque pop track. Love it. Can't say I hate it. When I first heard it, I was like, huh? I'm like, wait a minute, he's going to sing that whole song in falsetto? Come on, man. Don't do that shit. I can't see it any other way now. Blank Tapes, kind of okay ballad, nothing extra special. Man, I do not like People Who Eat Darkness. It's just, the lyrics are fucking lame. I can hear you fuck your girlfriend through the wall. Come on, dude. Really, let's be honest. Steve has written some really nicely challenging lyrical songs, but he's also written some kind of cheesy shit too. And I don't really get into his lyrics that are very obvious. I just don't, I'm not saying he has to be Neil Peart or Bob Dylan or fucking.
Hey, it's hard to write lyrics.
It is. It's also
you're not always gonna hit. So
oftentimes it's super challenging. But that's just a lame one, and I just don't like it's just too fucking obvious. I don't like it. Okay, but if you think I didn't like that song the most on the album, you'd be wrong. Song of I. Absolutely fucking hate this song. I fucking hate this song.
it's pretty terrible.
I fucking hate it. I fucking hate it. And he played it live, and I fucking wanted to yell at the fucking stage. Sorry, Steve, if you're watching, this is the worst song you've ever written. I know you probably like it. I don't like it. Sorry, it blows. I gave up fighting. I give it up. No, I give this song up. I almost gave the album up because of that song. Really like Detonation. That's a killer proggy track. That's probably the prog track on the album. That fade out with just the build up, it is killer on it. It's heavy.
Yeah, the build and the solo.
The solo's killer, yeah. It's also got the most jazzy vibe to it too. Song of Unborn. Wow, man. Holy shit. The melodies, the vocal melodies, oh my God. What an amazing song. That pre-chorus is stellar. It's amazing. That said, though, without question, my least favorite album until, well, we'll get there in 1 minute.
So you said you kind of hated it, but you're positive on 6 songs.
I know. I 6 out of how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Guess what I gave this? A 6.5 out of 10. That makes sense, right?
Well, yeah. So I mean, like, I think there's albums that you hate would be like a 3 or 4. You know?
Oh yeah. No, I don't. No, I wanted to hate the album, but listening to it again now, it's better than I thought. And
yeah,
carrying on with the tradition of Steve Wilson, we get to the bonus disc quick, which you guys probably didn't do. Ask Me Nicely intro, little edit of the full song. Not much. I don't know why they put that on there. Adore Mark Summer. Holy fuck, that song's beautiful. It is Drown With Me's Companion. If you don't know that song, guys, you need to go find it on YouTube and listen to it. Adore the Summer. Adore Mark Summer. It's so amazing. Ask Me Nicely. Cool track. Dig it. Groovy, spacey, instrumental. I'm sorry, that I goofed. Great track. Mellotron towards the end is really good on Ask Me Nicely. Northern Cyclonic. What's that? Oh, I thought you were showing something. Northern Cyclonic. Great, groovy, dig it, spacey, instrumental. Really, really cool. The song "Ask Me Nicely" reminds me of Half-Light. That's why I thought that one was really good. So you might want to check that one out. So just look up to the Bone bonus disc because there's a shitload of bonus tracks you don't have, Jimmy.
Did he ever put that out on anything? Because
Just on the limited edition.
this is the EP that he put out right after.
What's on it? What's on it?
How Big the Space?
Oh, it might be on there. What's on it? I didn't
No,
see
it's
that.
not on there. All this is How Big the Space and People Who Eat Darkness, Nanette version. And
I
How
don't
Big
know
the
that
Space,
one. I didn't even see that. That must.
It's not that good.
Yeah, I didn't
It's
know about that. I missed that
This
one.
was a Record Store Day release, and
Okay. Oh, right.
yeah, it's a cool song, but it's not really anything to scream home about.
Well, basically, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tracks that weren't on the album, and they're all really, really good. Probably, I would have much rather had all those songs on the album than
Really?
what.
Shit,
Yes,
I didn't
yes.
get that.
Especially Adore Mark Summer and Northern Cyclonic. They're both killer. The rest of the stuff on the bonus disc was People Eat Darkness, demos. These are all demos. Refuge, Same Asylum, Detonation, Song of Unborn. I didn't re-listen to any of those. Demos are one of those things where generally I listen to them once and then I move on. It's just my ADD, HD, or whatever. What is this? Oh. So, okay, maybe this. There's an album called Drowned in Sound that a guy named Benjamin Bland. He felt Wilson focused more on the idea of delivering a pop album, but only partially delivered the goods. That's kind of how I feel. But maybe you pointed out, Serge, I like it a little more than I thought I did. So, And then, as we talked about...
Also, delivering a pop album is really hard.
Yeah. Bonus tracks left off better than many album tracks. That's my note on there. So, yeah, man, it is better than I thought. But is it one I'm going to reach for in the Steve Wilson canon a lot? Probably not. That's the other way to look at it. It's probably one of the lower tier albums. It would definitely be my 5th album of the first 4, without question. So, all right, so we got one last album to hit here. There's a lot of tracks on here, but we can wrap up quick, Serge, so we can get you to bed at a reasonable time here. Future Bite, set for a June 12th, 20 release through Carolina International, but pushed back to January 29th, 21 due to the pandemic. Snap Studios and I can't read it. Anyway, Motley Ranch, that's not right. Both in the UK. Production is Steve Wilson, Dave Costin co-producing. This is SW's IDM EDM album. Real quick, it also included a major campaign that included online fake products, discusses commercialism in society 2019 through 20, dystopian view on social media. The more you look for answers outwardly, the more you disappear inside. It takes the piss on commercialism. There were many different variations of the box set put out, which, it's interesting because basically he's pissing on that commercialism view, but he's putting all these commercial products out for your consumption. And he even says that in the song.
Some of that I think is intentional.
Right, absolutely. Irony of being an artist and having to push products is really kind of what it's about. One thing to note on here, and I will get into the, all the bonus tracks since you guys probably didn't listen to them and I did, was that we talked about this before we went live, I think, and there was the very first place PT played their first show at, Nag's Head Wycombe, some club there, was going to go out of business, and Steve offered up a 1-of-1 box set for this. Only one box set. It was 10,000 pounds was the asking price. That's over 10 grand, right? US, probably about $13,000. You got all kinds of handwritten lyrics and all kind of personal stuff from Steve. I think you got a telephone call from him or something like that, if I remember correctly. You also got one track that was never released anywhere else called Anyone But Me, I believe. Some dude bought it. I think he's from the States, Chicago. He did an unboxing video that's out there if you guys want to see it. the thing you need to know about it was not 10 grand that went in Steve's pocket. He donated the entire proceeds to save that venue so that it didn't go out of, so other people could play there. So when we talk about what a self-centered person Steve is, that's a pretty selfless act right there. Because truth is, he probably could have sold it for 10 grand and pocketed that money if he wanted to. It would be a pretty shitty thing to do, but he probably could have done it. So, all right. Anybody who wants to chime in on this one first? Serge, why don't we do you just in case you got dropped?
All right. So just the CD first one, and I get this is part of the concept, but man, I hate the cover art, the whole whole like artistic design of minimalism of this whole, and which bleeds through to continuation closure, although the different people did it. No Lassie involved in this one. I don't know, like
He's been out of the loop now. He's moved on, I guess.
yeah, so
He's moved on. He's moved on.
That's unfortunate because this is, I don't know, but again, I get the concept. It's just man. All right, let's get into the tracks now. Decent pop track. Richard Barber plays on this, so maybe that was a little precursor.
They were clearly working together by this time again.
Yeah. King Ghost. If I remember correctly, you're not a fan, but
fucking hate it.
I'm gonna disagree with you because I don't know. I kind of dig that synthy arpeggiator thing. It reminds me of like music I hear in video games that I like Deus Ex, something like that. I don't know, something about that. I kind of just dig the
oh wait, that's not the one I fucking hate, but I don't love it. But go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry.
12 Things I Forgot. I just have the word decent on this, but it was like, yeah, don't like Eminent Sleaze.
Oh, that's the one I fucking hate.
Yeah, it's like the weird like theatrical thing. I just it didn't work for me at all. That was Man of the People. Again, I kind of like dug the synth parts in places.
Not bad.
So I don't know. I kind of dig the synthy parts on this album. Personal Shopper is a cool track. I kind of like what he did with it. I have no idea where he got the Elton John spoken word, but
well, he asked him to do it, obviously.
Very well, I guess. I mean,
oh yeah, I mean, Wilson
guess
is known. Wilson's known in the
shows
industry.
his pull, right?
Yep, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, I like the track. Interesting video. Again, decent concept there. Follower, no, I didn't like that at all.
Yeah.
Count of Unease, also did not like. So this album has the most of like, low rated tracks in my scale. Eyewitness is another one where just like heavy arpeggiator. I can't pronounce that word.
Arpeggiator, yeah.
In Floor Green, also didn't like. Move Like a Fever was I did like that one. So let's see. One.
Are you missing one more track? Doesn't it?
Anyone But Me was another one. Was okay. So there's like 3 songs I'd say 4 songs that I liked. A few are like okay, and like 3, 4 that I just skip, which is unusual for me on.
And tell the truth, Serge, you bought that. Didn't you buy that on the going out of business sale at Vintage Vinyl?
Oh.
You weren't going to buy it, and then you're like, "Well, if they have it, I'll grab it."
For the going out of business sale.
Was that the last copy or next to last copy or something?
So they had like a bunch of copies of both vinyl and CD. And at first I was like, and I went there like different times because at first they would have like 25% off, then I was like 50% off, then I was like, and it took them a while to actually get rid of this album. So
yeah, was not moving.
They did have a lot of copies, but so yeah, I did grab the CD version.
Well, I remember when you went over there when it was the final day. You called me and we shopped online from Instagram, and you grabbed me a 2 or 3 albums that were in a CD or two, and I'm like, you know what? If they still have a Wills copy of that Wilson album, I'll take it. But not if it's no more, as long as it's no more than $5 or $6.
I mean, it was. I mean, that was like when everything was like 75% off. So,
But don't you remember? At least this is what I recall. Maybe I'm making this up, but I'm pretty sure I'm not. If I remember correctly, you walked in and you said you saw a guy walking out
there was a
with
guy
a copy
walking out
of
of
it.
the last copy.
That was the last copy.
Yeah.
And I had finally relented and said, all right, I'll take a copy of it just so I have it in my collection. But Jimmy, what you got on this one?
Yeah. Well, I mean, most of what Serge said, I pretty much agree with. I fucking hate the artwork and the cover. I hate how he looks there. I just want to punch him.
What's with that look? What's it supposed to convey?
It's like he superimposed himself in front of like a female, so it's kind of like a
androgynous thing.
But at the same time, it kind of fits with the whole concept, the unself self kind of thing.
It's like a 12-year-old boy there.
I don't know. It's just, I mean, like, I kind of get it, and I think his the artwork, the art direction has been on a downhill slope at this point, especially going into the new PT, which I agree with Serge as well. Is that the artwork is.
I'm actually surprised it's different
Awful.
people. I kind of thought it was the same.
Well, and it's funny because like the CD version I've got of that new PT, I've got like a 100-page book, and it's just a bunch of bullshit, man. It's not good.
But you know where they stole that from, right? That concept of the new PT album is 1,000,000% stolen from David Bowie the next day. 1,000,000%. It's a direct rip.
Yeah,
It's not even.
I don't know. It's just like I don't know. Like I don't know, Serge, if you would call that like abstract art or what you would call it, but it just doesn't.
No, it's not abstract. It's just hyper commercial.
Lame.
It's like ad agency. I don't know.
Yeah. And like maybe it like kind of fits like so like this record, the first thing I heard was Personal Shopper, and I was immediately like, okay, like on the one hand, like this makes total sense to me, like the direction he's taking, because I mean I could see what he's doing, and this is the kind of stuff he likes, and I'm kind of cool with it. It's not my forte, but I don't know, like I like the lyrics a lot in Personal Shopper, and I think they're very relevant to kind of like what's going on. It's cool to have Elton John on there and all this kind of stuff, but for the most part, this record, I mean, it's probably my least favorite of his catalog, but I mean, I'm willing to recognize the fact that a lot of this music is just not really for me, and I kind of appreciate that about it. Every now and then it's interesting because he kind of delves into things that I like 12 Things I Forget. I really like that song. I love the way that it ends too, like with that sort of, it's got like a, what'd you call that? Like a beach rock kind of guitar sound with the acoustic at the end of it. That really kind of ends it really nicely, and it's good melody. King Ghost is kind of cool, but yeah. I can't stand M and the Sleaze. I mean, I remember seeing the video for that. Remember the intro of the video, like when he like walks up and he's like got his fucking stupid suit on and he's all like beat up looking. And me and my wife watched that. My wife loves Steven Wilson, and we're like, oh my god, what a tool! Good god, dude! Like M and the Sleaze. Yeah, terrible song. I mean, like it's kind of cool for what he does, but I mean, for me, I mean, Man of the People is a good song. I like that one. And the last 2 tracks, Follower and Kind of Unease, I can't even really remember what those sound like, but I remember kind of enjoying them. Because it's weird because like he's got like 3 songs in here that are kind of just more, it's not like the pop fest like that the rest of it. I don't know if you would call that pop, like M and the Sleaze. Like I don't know if that's considered like a true pop song or whatever it is. I mean if the pop's good, I mean I probably like it, but I do like the production.
I don't know if I call this a pop album. It was just electronic. It was the first
Yeah.
word I would
Well, there's
describe it.
electronic pop in there, but he tries to be. I think he tries to be quote unquote somewhat experimental at times in there, and it doesn't work within the context of the pop songs.
Well, like I came away
Well,
from
not
it
pop,
thinking
but the
that maybe
electronic.
it works. Maybe it works. It's just not really, too much for me. Um, I'm always trying to be open minded when it comes to these kind of things, and um, it's a good record. I mean, I mean, if anybody was to do something like this, that I would somewhat enjoy, Stephen Wilson could do it. Am I going to put this on very often? No. I mean, pretty much never. But
It's a good record. Am I ever going to listen to this again? No, pretty much
But-
never.
but I mean, like in terms of like his trajectory and kind of,
Oh, I see. Yeah.
it's not. It's not a surprise for me. Like it makes total sense that he's like kind of doing this sort of thing. Now I have not heard the bonus tracks you guys were talking about. I've never even heard any of those. So.
Well, the ones that Serge was talking about, were they on the album? Those three, Serge? Or where did you get those 3 tracks you talked about?
Those. So
See, they're on the B sides, which there was one other track on there you
I
were
mean, those
missing.
I just listen on Spotify. So I
Okay, yeah,
got 'em
yeah, they're on the
together,
Spotify version. There's another song. Here's the deal: the album version goes from Unself down to Count of Unease, right? For the regular album version. The bonus album then comes with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 additional tracks, but that were only with the limited edition. However, there's an EP that came out that had 4 other tracks, 3 of which were, one was a cover, one was a remix by Tangerine Dream. You spoke of 3 of the tracks that are on that B-side. It's called B-Side Collect. So you'd have to get that as a separate EP, and you'd have to get the limited edition box set to get all the other bonus tracks.
Gotcha.
I'll speak to all those because I listened to them all.
Well,
quick.
I mean, and that's kind of cool. I mean, like, I'd like to hear those, but I mean, I will say that I think, like, the whole concept is kind of cool. I don't know. I fucking hate it, but at the same time, I kind of get it. But I do like, and I'm not somebody that really pays too much attention to lyrics. But even with like Stephen Wilson, I try to pay a little more attention because I think he does put a lot of work into, his message and what he's talking about. And I think, Personal Shopper does succeed in that aspect. I think there's a really cool message there that works. I don't really remember what the message is. I just remember thinking. I just remember thinking, like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Like, yeah, I mean, he's talking about like consumerism and
Consumerism,
like, that kind of stuff, and it kind of worked. I mean, like I liked it, and I really like the production of this. I think he's a master.
Oh, absolutely.
And like so I wonder. I mean, like, I guess the next record is going to be kind of in this vein, and
I don't think so.
No, well,
Not from what I'm hearing and reading. No, I don't
it's
think
funny
it's
because I was going to ask you guys like what's your prediction for the next Stephen Wilson?
Well, let's before we go there, let me run through my track listing quick, and then we'll tie it all up with talking about where the future of Stephen Wilson goes. What do you think? How about that? We'll wrap at 12:30, and that way
that sounds good.
For me, when this came out and he unleashed Personal Shopper first, 2 things hit me. Number one was, wow, there's some pretty dark, looped keyboards in there that sound very Depeche Modian and very Tangerine Dreamish, only the more nightmarish Tangerine Dream that I like Stratosphere and Rubicon. There's, this is a dark pop song, but then I was like, man, did that song have to be 9 fucking minutes and go into that ambient interlude section where we listen to, Elton John go, limited edition box sets, toothpaste, hair products, and I'm like, why the fuck? I don't need to hear that. It doesn't convey anything more to me about consumerism or commercialism or capitalism. I know that shit. We all know capitalism has its dark side, but it's probably better than communism overall. It is better than communism, although it also points out how the rich people at the top of the food chain in capitalism always fucking get the spoils, and it's always the guy at the bottom end that's made to, okay, we're getting political, so I better get off there. Anyway, Serge and I have a mutual friend who unfortunately I'm not really talking to at the moment, but he's a good buddy that was through all this Steve Wilson stuff. And when that song dropped, we started talking, he and I, John, and John from the Rush thing, the Rush deep dive. He hey, what's up, Nick? He hated it, and he's progressively hated Wilson more and more and more because of the fact that Wilson preaches this bullshit about, smashing up on Insurgente, smash your iPod. You can't listen to condensed media, but then he gives you all this fucking media to consume and buy and box sets and chase this. And, then I'm going to release it on that album. And, I have all this special stuff that I just reserved for you, just for you, the guy that's going to buy it. But then I'm going to release it on a $10 CD so everyone can have it, that kind of shit. And I understood what John was saying. It was really what started for me on the third album. I just stopped chasing all the fucking giant mega box set shit that it was like, dude, you're going to put this shit out somewhere anywhere. And I don't need another coffee table book with photos of you in it, I just don't. No offense. I think you're a brilliant songwriter and an amazing musician and, all that stuff. But I don't need a fucking book of you in various masks and smashing iPods and doing all this really edgy stuff. You're edgy. We get it. Okay. That won't come off very good if he just tunes in right at that part. But that song, Personal Shopper, I had a love-hate relationship with it. I really did. I love the musical part of it, with the exception of the middle section with the spoken word stuff. I don't really love the lyrics, even though I get where he's coming from. I don't get into the whole the shit you have. It's like, all right, don't be so edgy, dude. You don't have to be edgy. But I get it. It would probably be what we would say if we were all hanging out. Dude, I don't need all that shit. So I get where he's coming from. But this album, man, I don't like it. I just don't like it. Whereas I had 6 songs out of 11 on the last that I really dug. Unself, intro, pointless, doesn't do anything for 50 seconds. Self, electronic beats, like a fucking clown. Oh, there's a great lyric. Like a fucking clown. And selfish acts beneath the sheets. Oh, that's so trendy and edgy, Steve. Oh, selfish acts. It sucks. I resorted to I resorted to a 10 scale on these songs. So here's what I'm gonna do: 0 out of 10 on Unself, 2 out of 10 on Self. King Ghost, pretty melodies, terrible lyrics, no manish. 4 out of 10. 12 Things I Forgot, good pop vibe. Good pop song. Radio based, nice melodies. 7 out of 10. Eminent Sleaze. Again, lyrics blow. Ugh, this song, 1 out of 10. Man of the People, pretty cool, reminds me of a No Man track, 6 out of 10. Personal Shopper, 5 out of 10. Wish it was 5 minutes. Oh, by the way, there's a 19-minute version on the demo.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
It's the only thing I didn't listen to. I just didn't have time. But I am going to listen to it to see if I really ate it or not. Follower, I don't know, Jimmy. You better listen to that again because that is not a good track. 2 out of 10. Meh. Not very good for me. Very repetitive.
I actually literally wrote the word meh for it.
Yep. Count of Unease. What the fuck? Oh, God, man. I'm getting old and I can't read my goddamn writing. Okay. By the way, one thing to note is that when the original track listing came out, this was not on the album. Anyone But Me was the closer, and they took that off and replaced it with Count of Unease, I believe. And also Personal Shopper. I'm sorry, Count of Unease was on, but it was switched with Personal Shopper. Personal Shopper was at the end before Anyone But Me. Yeah, Count of Unease. 3 out of 10. Fuck off for that track. So for the Personal Shopper, for the bonus box set, Personal Shopper 19-minute version, I don't know, man, but how could that be better? Unless it has super cool ambient sections that blow your mind. I just don't see how that could be better. And I can tell you, if it's like a 15-minute middle section of people talking about their things that they like to buy on Amazon, then again, fuck off. Unself, the long version, more Portishead Massive Attack vibes, cool, 7 out of 10. And you're going to find this album is the album I wish was the real album. The bonus album, it's way better. 8 out of 10 on Bloody Ha. Super cool Atmos track. Beats, really cool. More Moves Like a Fever, cool, atmospheric, trippy. Glitchy electronica, 9 out of 10. That's probably the best track on the whole album. King Ghost Extended, meh, not much better than the original, 4 out of 10. I Am Cliche, 0, -1, -2 out of 10. Fuck that track. Whoa, here's another killer one. Wave the White Flag, very PT-ish, great track, 9 out of 10. Eminent Sleaze long version doesn't improve with song length and sound effects, 4 out of 10. In Pieces, very 80s sounding, super cool, 8 out of 10. Finally, every Kingdom Falls. God damn it, Jeff, can you just write like a normal human being? I think it says Every Kingdom Falls or Enemy Kingdom Falls. Can you look that up, Serge, and clear that up? Look on bonus disc for
Every Kingdom Falls. Yeah.
Okay, Every Kingdom. There you go. What did I say? Enemy? Every? I don't know. Pretty song. Falsetto overkill on this one, though. Too much falsetto. And it's a little too slow to get into it like Permeating. I like Permeating a lot because it's quick, it's short. This is like 5 minutes long. So, yeah, you're getting spicy tonight, bro. You think I'm I ain't holding back, bro.
I'm gonna say, if you could pick and choose tracks, you could easily, from what you just said,
I could make a great
make
album.
an album that's at least like 5 on every track.
I could not 5, but maybe 4, 4.5. I could make a killer album with the bonus tracks. And I'm going to talk about one last thing, the B-sides that you mentioned 3 of the tracks on. Eyewitness, 6 out of 10, very techno-y, drum and bassy, sort of, kind of, not bad. Vocals, meh. Very 80s synths, cool. 6 out of 10, not bad. Better than most of the tracks on the album. In Floral Green is a cover of a John Mitchell song by Lonely Robot. I like the verse on this. It's very cool. It's kind of a little slow and a little long, though. Moves like a...
Have you ever listened to Lonely Robot?
I have not. I've not. I have heard they're great, though. I've heard they're great, yeah. King Ghost. I'm trying to wrap this so we can get cool. to the after streams, because I know Serge has got to get to bed. King Ghost, super cool atmospheric version. It's the long... I don't know. It's the long version. Is that what it says, or alt version? I think it's the alt version. Love this song. It's pretty cool. This is an 8 out of 10. And maybe the best track of all is the King Ghost. Yes, I said King Ghost. But it's the Tangerine Dream remix version. It's about 10 minutes long. Super cool atmospheric. Love it. It's very typical spacey atmospheric Tangerine Dream. This is probably a 9.5 to 10 out of 10. To wrap it all up, on the actual studio album, I like 3 tracks a bit, and I like 3 tracks a lot, and 1 kinda. The rest blow hard for me, not for me at all. However, the B-sides and bonus disc has some very cool leftover tracks and different versions or remixes. Honestly, only 3 tracks on the original album would stay if I were to resequence this album using all the other material. I would add 4 or 5 off the bonus disc and 2 off the B-sides, for especially the remix by TD, although you wouldn't probably put a remix on a full album, although you could. That would have been a pretty badass album. So Wilson is still writing good material. It's just, I don't get it, but he didn't put the best material on this album at all for me. But that's me. I don't know. But here's the thing. Here's the proof of the pudding. If you guys ever use Rate Your Music, you guys ever use that? You ever look on there?
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
All right. If you go on Rate Your Music, man. Hey, what's up, dude? We're on the last album. Logan. I know you guys were all over on Marty's stream. You don't have to lie to me and act like you were coming in late. I know it. It's cool. It doesn't matter. We're going to do the after stream anyways, so you guys can join me there. I think Jimmy might hang for a little bit, but Serge has probably got to roll. But where was I going with this shit? Where do I think he's going? Rate Your Music. If you go on Rate Your Music, this album is by far the lowest rated. It's actually in the 2s, and most good albums are in the 3.5 and above. Like good albums and great albums. Like, for example, Cure Disintegration. It ranks as like a 4.2. This album rates as like a 2.85 or something like that. Now, granted, was I trying to compare this to one of the most brilliant albums ever written in the Cure Disintegration? No. But, I mean, that's not fair, right? But Steve Wilson's highest rated album, like 3.8, or 3.8 or 3.79 or something like that. And this album rates literally almost 2 points below it. That tells me everything I need to know. Most people that are even Wilson fans are kind of shitting on it. I will say, for me, Grace and Insurgentes are probably 1 and 1A for me. I would probably put Hand Cannot Erase at 2. I would probably put the goat, what's it called, Raven, at 3. Although I guess that's cheating, isn't it? Because I'm using a 1 and 1A. Okay, I'm going to go Grace, Insurgentes, Hand Cannot Erase, the Ghost one, Raven. I always want to call it Ghost Stories. To the Bone, and this thing is a far distant last. And that's only because most of the good tracks just didn't make it on the album, and I don't understand it. I really don't get it. I'd love, if I had one question for Steve. If you watch this, man, and you want to just talk to me one more time in your life before I fucking die, I want to ask you why you left all the really killer tracks off the main album. Yes, they're all out there. And yes, you can buy a limited edition, probably, I'm sure, still. Maybe. I don't know if it's sold out or not. I'm sure it's still available. He stopped making limited editions that were limited, by the way. That happened with the Incident. You could buy the Incident limited edition, and there's still versions of that everywhere. You can find it. But why did he leave all the good tracks? And where does he go from here? There is a name of the new album. I think it's called Codex. Remember, Serge, I told you I found the name of it somewhere. It's on Rate Your Music if you want to look it up. Codex Impera, or I don't remember. Anyways, I would say I don't think it's going to be like this last album. I really don't. There will be elements of it because it's part of who he is and does. But I wouldn't be surprised if we got a straight-on singer-songwriter album, or I don't know, man. Like, I just don't think it's going to be a pure electronic pop album again. I just don't think. I don't know where this one ended up on Billboard. I forgot to write that down, but I know it wasn't anywhere near To the Bone or Hand Cannot. And I think the guy's a brilliant songwriter most of the time, 98% of the time. I think he's a mercurial artist that gets a lot of, he talks about the fact that he's never been on TV in the UK. He's never been on Jules Holland. He's never been on Top of the Pops. And that is confusing because of how much high profile, attention he's gotten throughout the years. That's weird. Do I think that Steve would like to be an international pop star? Yeah, I do. I really do. But I also think he likes being a mercurial artist that can make whatever he wants generally. And when you start making pop albums like James Blake or what's that guy's name? You're beautiful. That dude. You do get boxed in to a degree, to a point. You can't just be that guy that goes, hey man, I'm going to do a death metal album now. Steve could still do something like that if he really wanted to. He won't, but and he still likes a lot of that music, but not the death metal so much, but the Opeth metal and the prog and all that stuff. So, a lot of respect here. Anything I said that was negative was just my personal feelings in terms of towards the music, not necessarily towards the man, the artist. He's a great performer live. I do think what I understood based on the people I've talked to that went to the shows, not just you two guys, but I know 5 or 6 other people that went to shows. And they all said the same thing, that the focus does seem to be on Steve live. And I sent both you guys that pose he was doing in that picture somebody took,
Yeah.
the live pose. It's like, come on, man. Like Steve Wilson would make so much fun of that pose if it was some other artist. But
No.
you know what I mean?
I would argue it was almost, for the most part, always focus was on him, whether it's PT or solo, whatever.
Yeah, I would agree
Nah,
with that.
you're probably right. You're probably right about that. You probably
I didn't feel it was any different, honestly. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your feelings, guys? Serge, you want to wrap up your take on everything, and then Jimmy will do you, and then we'll bail out.
Well, again, my general feelings were, it was good to go back to this. It's been a while since I listened to it, and I did kind of surprise myself. It was for the most part better than I thought. And like I said, Steven is almost an annoyingly good creator of music.
Where do you think he's going?
I honestly, it's hard. Like I feel like, I can't tell. Like, are his albums influenced by his collaborators, or does he pick the collaborators based on what he's trying to do? Because I feel like that's different albums.
That's a great question.
On them.
Wow,
and
that's a killer question.
I don't honestly know how that works.
The one thing I will say, and I think you'd agree with this, Serge, is that one thing though that Steve does tend to do a lot is he tends to be highly influenced by what he's listening to at the time. If he's listening to Venetian Snares and Square Pusher and Tom Jenkinson and fucking Alteca, you can hear it come out somewhere in the music because he's engrossed with what the latest weird thing he might be listening. If he's listening to Max Richter or Harold Budd or something ambient, it tends to come out. And so it's hard to know what he's listening to right now. I don't keep up with that anymore. I haven't for years because I just kind of checked out on that. But who knows, if he's listening to all the ABBA's catalog endlessly, we might get an ABBA album. Or oh shit, we didn't talk cover versions. Damn it. Do we want to do that real fast? It's up to you.
That's all right. I mean, look, we can. I don't think there's a lot to talk about them.
Well, do you want to show it? One of you guys throw it up real quick.
I mean, they put them out on a CD later, but initially they just came on these
show them
almost blank CDs.
They're pressed with just boxes, and what it consisted of was
just
two songs: an original by Steve Wilson and a usually a out there cover, like something you wouldn't expect. Right?
And the cover was just called cover version number, so it was kind of like you had to listen to it to figure out what it was.
You want to run through the cover versions real quick? What he covered?
So he covered "Thank You" by Alanis Morissette, "The Day Before You Came" by ABBA, "A Forest" by Cure. So those three I knew.
And the Forest cover is really killer.
Yeah, the Forest, and that one is because for the most part these are kind of like stripped down covers, which, I don't know. I don't necessarily think they add anything, personally.
I like the Forest one. I like that one a lot.
It's all right.
Probably the best one.
But I think I felt like that was more, more effort in that one. Although I still just would rather listen to the original.
Oh, of course.
Then he did the guitar lesson by Moments, which I wasn't familiar with before that.
Yep, me neither.
Sign of the Times by Prince. That's another known one. He just kind of added heavier guitars there. And then Lord of the Reedy River by Donovan, which is another one I didn't really know. And then the B-sides to those were basically his his originals, except for one traditional, I guess, adaptation, which is Unquiet Grave. For the most part, they were again, they felt like you know, like you're listening to a demo, or like it's like, oh, okay, this song's okay, but like it needs to be a real song. So I don't know. There's not anything there, I think, for the most part, that like I feel like I'd need to listen to. And End to End is probably my favorite. Um, and that's his last original.
Can you read off the titles of the originals again, real quick?
So originals were Moment I Lost.
Not bad.
You know, the slide guitar is cool. Please Come Home.
Kind of lame.
You know, Four Trees Down.
That one's cool.
Unquiet Grave.
That one's killer.
I mean, it's interesting because you have the like vocal ambience thing.
Yeah, it's very vocal. It's very ambient. I like that track. Yeah.
Well, You're Wrong. I didn't care for.
Yep, that one's not good.
And then the End to End is, like I said, is my favorite.
Yeah, that's a great track too. So, yeah, are they worth? Oh shit, are they worth owning? Oh god damn it! I kicked Serge out. What the fuck? Serge, pop back on real quick to wrap. I'm sorry, I hit the wrong button. Jimmy, what do you want to wrap up with your thoughts? Serge, just pop on quick and we'll wrap up.
Excuse me. You know, man, I'm excited what's to come. You know, like I hope that Porcupine Tree has maybe seen sort of a resurgence, a renewal, and I hope that Steven feels that, you know, it behooves him to continue the project.
Sorry, man.
You know, if he does not decide to do so, then, you know, I'll understand. I mean, because at this point, you know, being a fan of Steven for so long, I everything he does kind of makes sense to me, even if it doesn't. You know, if I don't like it, if I don't like the music, you know, as an artist, I've always felt that, you know, and I've said some kind of unkind things about him, but I've always felt that he's been very genuine in terms of his artistic output. You know, whether I resonated with it or not, you know, and I'm excited, man. I hope the next record is going to be great, and you know, it could be kind of a douche, but at the same time, man, this guy has written some of the most profound, amazing music that has, you know, captured my heart and my soul for the rest of my life, you know?
Nice.
And I really, really, really feel very, very strong about that, you know? You know, for me, this is the songwriter of my generation in a lot of ways, you know?
That's not a bad, yeah.
And I'm a, you know, fucking, you know, metalhead, and, you know, like there's so much other music I like, but it's very rare when somebody like Steven Wilson comes along in my world, you know? And so for me, I will continue to follow him wherever he takes us. And yeah, I'm stoked.
What's crazy is, have you tapped into the No Man sphere yet?
Not really. No.
Have you tried any?
I don't know. I just have not spent any time on that or the Blackfield stuff. There's a lot of shit I need to go catch up on.
Well, the Blackfield album, you only need the first one. I'm just being honest. The second one's okay, but from there on, it's just his involvement starts to wane. It's mostly Aviv Geffen, and frankly, it's not for me at all. I don't like any of it. And frankly, Blackfield 2 is kind of for me. It's too poppy, too wishy-washy. Blackfield
First
1
one's brilliant.
First one's killer.
It's like pop, like, you know,
but dark pop. There's a lot of dark
pop brilliance. So good. Yeah.
But I will say, man,
after that, yeah, it's like, man.
Check out the album Flower Mouth, dude.
I will.
It is fucking amazing. Or Returning Jesus. Oh my god, dude. It's amazing. Now, Tim's vocals, very different from Steven's, but once you acquire the taste for Tim's vocals, man, it's amazing. It's you ever hear the band Talk Talk?
Yeah.
It's very Talk Talk. After Talk Talk did their first album, got rid of the pop stuff. Very esoteric, very post rock, very oh my god, some No Man songs are much better than PT songs. I'm not lying, they're just amazing. I would love to do a No Man thing. We'll have to see if that's ever going to be on tap. I doubt it. Don't forget, the dude wrote an album with Storm Corrosion with Michael Ockerfeld that's fucking brilliant.
Good. Yeah.
Allegedly, they've got stuff in the can for another one. And I would argue that Michael Ockerfeld is in that same rarefied air as Steven Wilson as a songwriter. He's got the bass communion stuff. He hasn't done any IEM in a long time. I think that's been put to
I
bed.
think that was kind of a one-off. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the krautrock experimental thing. But that IEM Have Come for Your Children, what a fucking killer psychedelic krautrock bizarro mindfuck album that is. You got what else? I'm missing something. What is the other? Oh, he's got the Continuum stuff with Derek Series. That's incredible. Dark ambient. This guy, man, like shit songs out.
Man,
Like it's like how?
It's insane to think how many different kinds of music is put together.
And Serge and I know as a last tie-in, there's a good friend of ours over in, he was one of the original PT Trans a guy named Peter Michael Seeker in Germany. He and a friend of his had put together a compendium. Do you remember what it's called? Footprints. Yeah, Footprints 1 and 2. They've worked on this for 12 fucking years. How about it, Serge? It's a compendium of Steven Wilson music and soundtracks and not soundtracks. Stephen Wilson's recording career. I believe it's 1,200. Yeah, I think it's 1,200 pages long. It's beyond understandable. I mean, look, I'll be honest with you. If he managed to get that printed, a print version, a book version of it, I would probably buy it. Would I ever get through it? Probably not. But it's insane. We're in it. Serge and I are in this book. Some of our material that we've written about, and Serge's pictures are in. I believe your pictures are in some of them, Serge, right?
I have no idea.
I think that I'm almost certain they are. They asked us for permission. I know they are.
I did send some, yeah.
Yeah, so this guy's career is insane, and it doesn't look like at 55, he'll be 55 on November 3rd, Jimmy. We were talking about Serge and I were talking about that when you were off. He's not stopping now, man.
I don't think he could stop if he wanted to. I think
he's driven to create.
So which is, I'm glad. So yeah, I don't know what he's gonna do next, but honestly, I hope it's something different, something new, just to see what he does with it. Whether it's fucking like synthwave or like witch house, I don't know, something fucking weird.
No, I do will say this. I do think that what has happened here with PT in the United States and the world over with the giant shows they're playing, 14,000 people in Chile. They just played to a 5,000 or 6,000, I believe, in Italy, where they were always kind of big, but they're even bigger. It might even been a bigger. That venue looked huge. They were in. It looked full. There is almost no way, I believe, for a second that Steve's going to go, yeah, I'm going to go back to my solo career and, play to 2,000 people, which he may not. Now maybe he's jumped into the 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 range with that tour too. But I just don't see how as one of the driving forces of being a creator and is playing live for most of them. And I know Steven loves playing live, and I guarantee you, there's a hell of a big difference between playing in front of 14,000 people and playing to 50 people at a club. If it's you or me, which one do you want to play to? I know I want to play to 14,000 people and hear that energy come back at me. I just don't think there's any way that PT doesn't continue as a touring thing. And more than likely, the record company's going to go, hey, we're going to throw a bunch of money at you to do another album. I just don't see that wouldn't happen. So, crazy.
Well, and ultimately, he has to feel like he's got another album in him. He's got to, him and Richard.
The three of them.
Well, and Gavin of them as well.
They're all involved now.
That's, I got to say, the PT show here in Denver was fucking huge, man. I mean, it was huge, big venue. I mean,
way bigger than the last time you saw him, right? Way bigger, right?
I mean, triple.
Dude, the last time I saw him in Richmond, Virginia, there was about 700 or 800 people, and this fucking place was 2/3 empty, except for the Radio City, which was sold out, which was epic. I just don't, like Serge said though. The big difference now with PT is that it was always kind of Steven's baby, and those guys came in and recorded their parts and they did their thing live. It is a 3-pronged machine now. Richard told me that Steven turned a lot of the control over to the 2 other guys. So to go back to one quick thing you said, Jimmy, about Steven's, the Steven Wilson show sort of vibe. I don't think it's clear to me that he's allowed those guys to become a bigger part of the sharing of the load, so to speak, with Porcupine Tree, and he's kind of shifted away from being the benevolent dictator to the 1/3 partner.
Yeah.
I think that's a fair statement right there.
Because he has that outlet with the solo stuff.
He's got his solo stuff. He can do whatever he wants on his solo stuff, where he is the benevolent dictator. So, hey guys, man, killer deep dive. I had a lot to say, obviously, but I tried my best not to interrupt too much. But I think we did a bang up job on this. I hope people see it. We didn't have a lot of numbers tonight. I don't think we ever got above like 7 or 8 early on, and then at one point we only had one person watching. We were going up against Marty and Alan. They have their thing, and that's tough to, I knew that, but because of schedules, this is the way we had to do it. So, killer, man, really, really good fucking deep dive. I think we nailed it hard.
Yeah, and it'll be out there, when people have time to catch up on it,
Sure. As for future stuff, it's to be seen. I just don't know. I really don't know. I have very strong suspicions things are going to go very wrong in the next 10 days. But that's me. I always sadly think negatively about a lot of stuff. When you're dealing with something like I've been for 7 years, it's hard to get out of the dark places. So I love you guys, man. I really appreciate all your input. You guys are such great collaborators, and I went and did a count. You 2 guys are neck and neck. You 2 are the premier guests on Gas Mask and Hand Grenade. You guys each have 6 appearances. Nick is a close second. Rick is third, and I got other people that have done 1 or 2. Chuck's in there too. I think Chuck has 4. So we'll see what happens. I just don't know. Jimmy, we'll see what happens on Agalock. I will say this. If you're feeling in an Agalock mood, start spinning them just in case. But that's the only thing I can say.
Already.
Yeah.
Records are imprinted.
Ingrained.
But yeah,
Awesome.
I will say I love doing this shit with you guys and always talking to you guys. It's always a lot of fun. So, thanks for inviting me. And, Serge, I hope you get your channel going again soon, man.
Yeah, I need to do that. It's just too much going on. But
yeah, no, I hear you. I know.
I got to chase some people. That's the hard part.
No, I get it. Yeah, it's and this shit's hard, man. To, make time for it. So I appreciate just you guys just hanging out and making the time for it. So
well, on that front, I as I did in my message that I sent out to all you guys. You got that right, Jimmy? Yeah.
Yes.
You guys got that.
Yeah.
You guys don't understand what you've done for me. You really don't. You just don't. I don't want to get super emotional. So the thing is that, I do have too much time to think. And so I am able to do this sometimes, but I'm highly acutely aware of, the fact that you all have you all have careers and jobs and families and other people. And so when you make time for me, I can't, this thank you does kind of pales, it doesn't adequately express, how I feel inside. So if this is the last one, I'm glad I did it with you 2 guys. And, I love the dudes. You're awesome people. And you're both way more intellectually up, got it going up here than this idiot right here. But I'm passionate. I'm passionate about the things I dig, and I think that's one of the things that people like about me or hate about me. It's like, man, that he's intense, but man, he's got his shit going on. He knows, what he wants, and so it's cool to share that with 2 dudes that really feel similar.
We're rooting for you, brother.
Yeah,
I know
for sure.
I know, man. All right, guys, we will wrap it up here. If you you get into this one and you didn't know, there's a Porcupine Tree deep dive, the very first gas mask and hand grenades we did last September with both these guys and my buddy Chuck. And that one is supremely well worth watching because there's a wealth of knowledge. We get way more into the history of Steven Wilson and Porcupine Tree, obviously the band. Jimmy, check No Man out. Start with either Flower Mouth or Speak, man.
I will.
It's not like Porcupine Tree, and it's not like most Steven Wilson solo, but yet there's a lot of it that's stellar fucking music.
For sure.
Yeah. So.
Man.
Okay, guys, we're gonna wrap it up. Just under 4 hours. Really, really appreciate it all. And the guys that are in there, Logan and Nick, I'll fire up the other stream here shortly. And Jimmy, if you're gonna jump, I think I gave you the link, didn't I? Okay. So maybe see you in a little bit, and other people, I'll see you shortly. All right, guys.
All right.
Cheers, fellas.
Rock.
Good
All right,
stream.
man.
Peace out, guys.
Take care.
Later.